Miracles have lined up, allowing them to overcome numerous crises. And now, to honor the achievements of Silas and his group so far, the group is being summoned at the castle. There, each party member is being bestowed the title of hero. The swordsman Silas turns to Nova, smiling as he expresses their triumph. Agreeing, Nova also smiles as he looks at his medallion. Nova Kikirasimu, the odd-job man, was supposed to become a hero like this, but instead fate had other plans for him, especially when Nova poured a glass of celebratory drink on the king's head. Liquid trickles down his face while Nova stares at him with dread. Soon the royal guards circle Nova, warning him not to move or else. Nova can only raise his hands in surrender and apologize for his behavior. If he doesn't do this, something bad might happen. Nova then forcibly rips the hero's medallion off of him and throws it on the ground, angering the king, who's now asking for his sword. Well, the king wants to punish Nova with his own hands now. Silas immediately goes to stop the chaos, insisting there must be a good reason for Nova's actions. Turning to Nova, Silas asks if this could be another barrel-maker quest. A teary-eyed Nova confirms this with a nod. When the king asks about this quest, Silas also asks Nova about what's going to happen. The king angrily turns to ask Nova what crisis will his action save right now. However, Nova tells him he doesn't know yet. The king looks at Nova distastefully. To the king, it's just as the court mages had reported. Even Nova himself doesn't know what results his actions will bring with his skill. It's not even a proper prophecy to begin with. Silas still tries to defend Nova, saying it's true that his actions seem meaningless to everyone else. But if they all count the stuff is done on their expeditions, then that might explain this whole ordeal. For example, the giant wasp swarm Nova had angered turned out to be the dragon's weakness. Then there was a time he took off his shoes and did a handstand, which made the goblins offer Nova the chieftain's seat. In Silas's argument, they have been saved by Nova's skill and courage in battles they had no chance of winning in the first place. With that, he asks they spare Nova's life. Nova closes his eyes, thinking about how embarrassing this is for him. The king outright refuses Silas's request, saying no one can prove that this skill is truly for avoiding a crisis and not just to insult him. This has Silas gritting his teeth. He presses further, threatening to return this bestowed honor if the king chooses to execute Nova. Their achievements were only possible because of Nova's power, Silas argues, so he'll decline the honor of being a hero if Nova isn't going to be a part of it. The others join in as well. One says it wouldn't be so bad to become a saint who protects Nova and makes an enemy of the whole country. The other two agree, saying it would be boring without Nova. However, the king's mind has already been set on the matter and leaves the venue with his men. A sad Silas asks Nova if he's really going to leave. Nova also becomes emotional but tries to stay positive. He then looks at everyone, thanking everyone for everything. He also apologizes to them for ruining the celebration. Silas starts trying to come up with another plan again. He really doesn't want Nova to go. However, Nova assures him he's going to be okay. After all, he only does odd jobs and considers the rest of his party members as the real heroes. The guard then screams for Nova to get out. Before he exits the door, Nova promises to write a letter to Silas once he finds a place to settle in. Suddenly, a strong gust of wind blows inside the castle, knocking a fire stand to the floor. This causes a fire to break out, alarming everyone attending the party. Although Nova is also worried for everyone inside, he can't really do anything since the guards have barred him from entering again. They shut the doors on Nova, leaving him alone. As he stands there, Nova thanks his friends for traveling with him all this time. Even though he's not from this world and even if it means he'll be alone, Nova will do it if it means to save the country. Darkness soon envelops the sky. Nova is in the forest, blankly contemplating his situation right now. He didn't think much of it when he was always with everyone, but now he's missing the warmth of having to eat with them. He now regrets not having to eat the feast before leaving. He could have done that at the very least. When Nova gives it a thought, when he was first summoned to this world and got kicked out of the castle, he was wandering around the royal capital hungry, and then his skill activated for the first time, telling him to buy 4 pieces of meat if he wants this world to become peaceful. Nova was puzzled with how meat can contribute to world peace. Anyways, he still finds a stall that sells freshly grilled meat and asks for 4. Even when the merchant tells him 2 is already plenty, Nova still insisted on 4. In a world he knew nothing about, Nova desperately did as it was written. That's when Nova met a man around his age buying and eating meat as well. The man has heard that the royal palace summons people from other worlds to research special skills. It's said that people from other worlds often bring rare skills that don't exist in their world. This begins to clear up some of the questions in his head. He then shares that his skill is incomprehensible even to him. That's why Nova was kicked out. Offering his hand for a shake, the man introduces himself as Silas. Never mind the handshake. What Silas really wants to offer is to repay Nova for his kindness and wants Nova to travel with him. After all, traveling is much better with a companion. Just then, Nova starts choking on his food. Because of that, he couldn't properly say Nobuaki Kirishima. Silas took Nova's choking words as Nova Kikirishima, and a new friendship bloomed that day despite the slight change of name. Now alone, Nova doesn't know what to do. The king obviously hates him. Maybe he could try and relax in some far-off countryside for now. Suddenly, a new barrel maker quest appears in front of Nova. His task? To jump into the river. If he does this, Nova will find his place. This is definitely different from buying 4 pieces of meat. Nova then hears some noise from nearby. He goes to check it and is surprised to see a girl being chased off by a wild boar. Nova stumbles to the ground as the girl draws out a small knife. Apparently, that wild boar is a magical beast that has powerful poison in its fangs and blood. She urges Nova to take the chance to escape up the tree, but there's no chance for him to do so. Instead, they run away from the boar, making chase in the process. The girl soon finds a hanging vine and tells Nova to grab onto it, but Nova refuses to do so. As the girl clings to the vine, the beast draws nearer and nearer. This is bad news and Nova really wants to help. But how? He suddenly gets the urge to turn around. Realizing it's a river, Nova remembers his quest to enter the river. Nova plunges into the river without hesitation. As he looks back to the wild boar, he wonders if he had managed to pull it off. Well, he somehow did. Not until he looks back again and sees the beast has swam into the river as well. Nova quickly swims towards a rock. Suddenly, slime is sticking to his arms. It's not just ordinary slime but blood-sucking slime, which is hurting Nova right now. The boar is still determined to reach Nova, but it suddenly stops moving when the blood-sucking slime starts attacking it as well. The beast manages to go ashore and drops dead on the ground. A slime-covered Nova stares at its body, wondering if it's really dead. After that, the girl got off the vine and helped Nova. The girl then asked Nova if he was camping alone, to which he explains he was in a circumstance wherein he needed to leave in a hurry. The girl suddenly hears Nova's stomach growl, making the boy scratch his head in embarrassment. The girl then realizes Nova's tent was ruined because of the boar beast. As thanks for saving her, the girl offers Nova to go to their village. Hearing her offer, Nova triumphantly thanks the barrel maker quest for this. Meanwhile, in the royal capital, talks about an assassin are surprising everyone. Venturing out onto the girl's village, Nova helps her out to take the boar with them. Soon they arrive in Laro village and Nova is amazed with what he's seeing. As Nova looks around the village, he can't believe there's a village in a place like this. Some of the villagers then spot the girl, who they fondly call Nina. They're glad she's safe and is very much surprised to see that she's caught quite the prize. They meant the boar, not Nova. Nina greets the village chief Land and calls Nova so she could introduce the two to each other. Nina then tells the chief that Nova is the one who defeated the boar and saved her. Land's face immediately brightens, praising Nova for being a skilled traveler. Now he wants to thank Nova for his help. They were just about to prepare a meal too. Nina then shares that the boar's poison has been neutralized so they can prepare it to cool right away. This has Nova curious why Nina knows that fact, to which she says it's because of her skill. Poison detection. Nina can see a purple haze around poisonous things. It's not useful in combat, so Nina doesn't think it's much of a skill. But Nova thinks the opposite. To him, it's an incredibly useful skill, especially that he's eaten a lot of mysterious things during his travels. There have been countless of times when he had become best friends with the toilet. Teary-eyed, Nova thinks if Nina had been with them, they wouldn't have gone through that. Hearing Nova's praise has Nina blushing in embarrassment. After that, Nina takes him to the village hall where she tells him to sit on the table. Not long, Nova is being served a big plate of cooked boar meat. After thanking her for the meal, Nova begins to dig in. The buttery piece of meat is delicious in his mouth, making Nova's eyes sparkle. Nina is happy to see Nova enjoying the meal, even saying there's plenty more where it came from. Taking a seat beside Nova, Land shares this meal is all thanks to Nova. That's why everyone's enjoying this feast. He then asks Nova as to how he managed to defeat the boar. Land is a former adventurer, but it usually takes dozens of people to take down one of those. While Nova chews on his food, Nina answers Land's question by sharing that Nova had lured the boar into the river, then a blood-sucking slime attached to it which absorbed the poison. The boar and slime then took each other out. Land didn't expect for things to go that smoothly. Nova explains it's hard to believe, but thanks to his skill called If the Wind Blows, the barrel maker prospers. He's always led to good fortune just as long as he succeeds in taking action, the skill suggests. Land has never heard of such a skill before. That's when Nova awkwardly laughs, realizing he should have told them about his skill from the start. Standing up, Nova hesitantly reveals to everyone he's a trans-free summoned from another world. Everyone is shocked to hear this, making Nova doubt if it was the right call to tell them. Suddenly, the people bursts out in complete amazement for Nova. It's their first time seeing a real trans-free, which they heard have amazing skills. Someone even asks if Nova is working at the royal palace. Nova then explains that his companions he was traveling with were honored heroes, but his role in the party is now over, so he set out on a solo journey. With that, he really had nowhere specific to go. Nina excitingly tells him to live in the village instead. Land readily agrees, saying they'd all welcome Nina's savior with open arms. Nova frustratingly highlights how he's not useful at all. But Land says otherwise, saying Nova has been plenty useful already. He then tells everyone they'll have a welcome party for Nova and instructs everyone to bring out lots of food and drinks. Nova then tells the village captain that he doesn't really do well with alcohol, to which Land assures him it'll be fine. After that, Land and Nina takes Nova to an abandoned hut. The village captain insists Nova to use it while he's here. Aside from that, Land warns him it might be a bit noisy since it's next to the dining hall. Both Land and Nina bid him goodbye, promising to see each other tomorrow. After Nova thanks both, Nina then tells Nova that she doesn't think Nova was saved yesterday because of his skill. She really thinks that's not all there is to it. To her, it takes courage to face a magical beast in that situation. Before she leaves, Nina expresses how grateful she is for Nova and thanks him once more. Now alone, Nova stares at the door in confusion. As he tidies up the hut, he realizes he's not confused but rather feeling warm. Nova sits down on his bed and thinks about his newfound friends. Chuckling, Nova can't believe Nina is seeing him for who he is rather than just for his skill. With that, he promises to put his best foot forward starting tomorrow. Meanwhile, the king frustratingly asks his men if they've found Nova yet. His men apologize, explaining they've searched the entire royal capital, but it seems Nova has already left already. They've expanded their search but to no avail. The king wants Nova found no matter what. The king's face etches of guilt, now knowing Nova was just trying to save him from the assassin. Now he's regretting banishing Nova and wants to make it up to him. All Nova's comrades are with the king as well. One says it can't be helped since Nova's skill is very unpredictable. Even Nova himself doesn't even understand the effects of his skill. Silas is still hopeful that Nova hasn't gone too far since he's on foot. However, another comrade says it would be impossible if he's already entered the northern forest. Nova did promise to contact them, so for now they'll just continue searching for him and wait. Silas becomes at ease. Nova does have a letter transfer device with him, plus he has his barrel maker skill, so he should be fine. Smiling, Silas hopes Nova has found a good place to settle in. The next morning at the village, Nova gets up early to finish tidying up the hut. After everything's clean, Nova goes out to behold the amazing view of Laro village, a peaceful and nice place to live in. Traveling with Silas and the others was exciting and fun every day, but this life isn't bad at all as well. Nova suddenly remembers everyone at the royal capital and quickly opens his quest panel to check his quests. Nova's face lights up as he sees everything is already cleared. Nova then opens to see the quest at the castle. That's when Nova found out that there was an assassin, but his actions have resulted in the king and everyone else being safe. Just then Nina arrives to tell him breakfast is ready. Before they can make it to the dinner hall, Nova spots a huge statue and asks about it. When Nina tells him it's the village's first chief, Nova is surprised with how surprisingly new and shiny it looks. Nina then says she's also wondered the same thing. Perhaps it has to do with the magical energy around there being dense. That's why it's not surprising if some kind of magic is cast on it. Nina then remembers they're going fishing later and is inviting Nova to come along. She also says she can tour Nova around as well. Of course, Nova readily agrees to that. Sometime later, Nova is heavily panting as he hikes with Nina. Out of breath, he asks Nina if they really need to go that deep into the mountains to fish. It's because there are a lot of slime in the river, so there aren't a lot of places where fish can live. Nova then asks why they haven't asked help from the Adventurers Guild in town to exterminate the magical beasts. Looking forlorn, Nina explains that money is tight since they're just a small village. This year, their fields have been ravaged by wild boars too. Nina's face then turns to hopeful, hoping they could strike it rich with rare animals or gems. If that happens, they can hire lots of adventurers. Turning to Nova, the girl stares at him with determination, like Nova is her answered prayer or something. Not long, Nina tells him to try looking for something rare since his barrel maker skill brings good things. Nova quickly dismisses her, explaining he can't really activate his skill on purpose. Seeing Nina's bright enthusiasm has Nova covering and closing his eyes. With that, he tries to muster up his skill to work, urging it to come forth so they can find something rare. Suddenly, a new quest dawns upon him. When heavy rain falls, a 7-colored light will shine down, it says. While Nova is stunned that it worked, Nina is all hyped up and is curious as to what's going to happen now. In Nova's mind, he's hoping this 7-colored isn't just some ordinary rainbow. As soon as Nova clicks on the drop button, the quest then reveals they need to take shelter from the rain. This was confusing at first, but then it started pouring heavily. Both Nina and Nova stare at the rain in silence, getting drenched by it in the process. Not long, Nina starts complaining with what's happening. Nova's skill was supposed to bring them good fortune, yet here they are taking shelter from the rain. After Nova reminds her he can't control whatever happens, he looks at his quest panel again. Taking shelter from the rain, check. Now another quest is available. He has to do radio calisthenics to warm up. Nova immediately gets to exercising, even ordering Nina to do the same steps quickly. Nina is beyond confused why she needs to do stretching exercises, but does it anyways. After a while of exercising, a giant fish suddenly leaps out of the river and into Nina and Nova's hands. It's not just any fish, but a golden ruby fish. Nina exasperates how she's holding live jewel in her hands. Apparently this fish is so rare that even nobles rarely get to see this legendary fish. And its weight equals its value in gold coins too. Nina then gives the fish a hug before praising Nova's barrel maker skill. However, what these two don't realize is something else is lurking in the bushes and waiting to ambush their catch. Suddenly, a monkey jumps out of the bush and snatches the fish out of Nina's hands. The thieving monkey's action sends Nina in a fit of fury, promising to barbecue the animal once she catches it. Nova is now angry as well since he kinda doesn't like barbecued monkey for a meal. Both of them try to catch up to the monkey which is headed towards a tree. Nina manages to grab it by its tail but then gets dragged by the monkey up on the tree. Nina then loses grip on its tail and is about to fall off. However, her anger fuels her drive to land on the ground safely. Looking up to see where the monkey is, Nova suddenly sees that an object is about to fall from the tree. He then raises his hands to catch the mysterious item only to get squashed by how big it is. It's an egg. Nina starts screaming as she sees the monkey taking a bite on the fish. After a while, the monkey throws it away at them. Apparently, the scales were too hard for it to bite on. Nina is still crying though. Even though this can still sell for a high price, it would have been much higher if it was undamaged. And by much higher that means they could earn more than enough to rebuild the village buildings. Nova is still optimistic and tells Nina about the egg that fell. It might be rare too. Nina does snap out of her sadness and is now thinking of making a huge omelet with the egg before anything else eats it. Hugging the egg tighter, Nova tried to shield it away from Nina, who's now trying to pry it off his hands. She's saying the egg's a bit cracked from the fall, so might as well cook it right up. However, the egg suddenly shines light out of its cracks. In a matter of seconds, a strange creature emerges from the egg, shocking both Nina and Nova. Both of them then venture back to the village, with Nova carrying the dragon in his arms. Land and everyone else is shocked to see the dragon in Nova's arms. When it opens its eyes, the villagers jolt away in fear. But the baby dragon only yawns and coddles in Nova's arms even more. It looks like it's still sleepy. The girls approach Nova, saying the baby dragon is cute. This is the first time they've seen one too. They didn't even know there were dragons in this forest. Now some of the villagers are worried that its parents might come looking for it. Hearing this, Nova opens up to discussing his plans on taking this little one and leaving the village. He's well aware of how terrifying dragons can be, but he also knows this baby dragon can't survive on its own. Before he could finish his sentence, Nina interrupts him and tells him he can't leave. Suddenly, Land also shouts that Nova doesn't have to do so. If a dragon was enough to finish them off, this village would have been wiped out ages ago. They've got plenty of skilled former adventurers in this village as well. This has everyone hopeful, saying they can handle it even if the parents come. Even if their houses get destroyed, they can always rebuild them by selling the golden ruby fish. Land then assures Nova, saying he doesn't have to shoulder this burden alone. After all, it's better to have more hands to take care of the baby dragon. Land's reassuring smile reminds Nova of Silas, which makes him smile. After Nova thanks everyone, Land goes on to pet the baby dragon. Everyone laughs as they watch their village chief get all cutesy with the creature. When Nova asks what should they name the baby dragon, Land suggests calling it Peachan since it's always making that sound. Nina interjects, saying they should give it a cooler name. On the other hand, Nova is curious as to what kind of dragon the creature is. Nina then suggests they check the Adventurers Guild in town next time. That night, Nova takes the baby dragon to his place and places it in a small basket. He's decided to call it Peachan, telling it how lucky they are that everyone's nice. Rummaging through his things, Nova finally finds the letter transfer device. He'll ask Silas about the baby dragon since he knows a lot about its kind. Nova also wants them to know he's currently living in this village. Once he's done writing the letter, Nova puts it inside the device. The device is pretty handy too. Magical tools are so convenient these days that letters get delivered almost instantly. After sending the letter, Nova tells Pai-chan goodnight and falls into deep slumber. The next day, he's urgently woken up by Nina's voice. Something's happening with Pai-chan. Hearing that has Nova really waking up, realizing the baby dragon isn't in its basket anymore. He hurriedly dresses up and goes with Nina. They then arrive at the warehouse where a crowd of villagers have gathered. There, Pai-chan lays asleep on a bed of vegetables. Nova immediately apologizes for the ruined important vegetables. However, that's not the villagers' concern since they're more worried about Pai-chan. Apparently, the soil around here was dug up by that wild boar and poisoned. These vegetables are laced with poison, so they were going to throw the vegetables out. Now Nova's worried if Pai-chan's stomach is okay. Using her skill, Nina says the baby dragon doesn't look like it's been poisoned at all. Pai-chan then wakes up from the ruckus and slowly walks and shakes itself up. Happily prancing towards Nova, Pai-chan doesn't look like it's been poisoned at all. Still, Nova is worried, wondering if the wild boar's poison doesn't affect dragons. If that's the case, Pai-chan can go ahead and eat as much of the vegetables in the storehouse as it wants. After all, it was such a waste that the wild boar ruined so many fields to begin with. Hearing the villagers' suggestion has Nova beaming, thanking them for the kindness. They're all glad the baby dragon is okay and is hoping it grows up quickly. Suddenly, they feel a strong cold wind blowing their way. While everyone takes cover, Land looks up to the sky and discovers there are creatures hovering over the area. Two mighty dragons soon land in front of Nova, who's shocked to see the creatures. It seems that Pai-chan's parents are here to claim their baby. Meanwhile, Silas quickly informs his comrades that Nova has sent them a letter. Everyone is excited to hear what Nova wrote, so Silas hurriedly opens the letter. Nova tells them he's currently in a place called Laro Village, which is upstream in the northern region. It's a very nice place and Nova thinks he'll stay there for a long time. One of the comrades then gets a map, immediately checking where this village is located, only to find nothing. It's a small settlement, so it shouldn't be on the map to begin with. After telling his comrades to visit him when they get the king's permission, Nova then asks about Pichan. He tells them that he's found a baby dragon in the forest and is asking if Silas knows what kind of dragon it might be. Nova also expresses his desire to return it to its parents if possible. A drawing of Pichan is also on the letter, making his comrades praise him for his impeccable talent for it. On the side note, Silas is extremely silent as he stares at the drawing. Shock is evident on his face as he recognizes the dragon in the drawing. The one spoken of in legends as the highest rank among the dragon species, there's no doubt this is a shining dragon. Back at Laro village, the two huge dragons are relieved they've finally found their baby through tracing the faint magical energy it left. They then turn to Nova, accusing him of stealing their precious egg. Apparently Pichan is the child of Zaius and Sophie, the shining dragons in front of them. Why would a measly human dare to commit such an outrage by stealing their baby? Now Nina and Land are shaking in fear. Pichan clings onto Nova even more, making him assure the baby dragon that it's all okay since these are its real mom and dad. Before Nova can properly say goodbye to Pichan, the dragons take it away from him. The dragons then ask their child if it's okay and apologize for not being there for him. After that they turn to Nova in anger, asking if he had planned to extract their clan's magical power from their child. Seeing their anger, Nova stutters as he tries to explain what had happened, that he only happened to find the egg in the forest. However, the dragons aren't here to listen to humans lying, and immediately open its mouth to burn the whole village. While everyone runs away from the area, Nova stands there and tells the dragons he's the one who brought the baby dragon here, so they should face him instead if they want to fight. He then explains that everyone was just trying to help Pichan. He even asks the dragons if they even tried looking for their egg in the forest. It's true that they didn't, but not because they don't care. Dragons can't freely wander outside their territory, and their conflicts sometimes disrupt the world's order. Pichan then starts making worried noises, urging his parents to listen to him. That's when they realize that the faint evil energy lingering on the baby dragon is from their all-time enemy. They now realize that their child might have died while still in the egg due to a curse their enemy had placed on Pichan. But now most of the evil magical energy in its body is gone. They then deduce that Nova and the other must have fed it something good that stimulated its digestion. Remembering the poisonous vegetables, Nova and the villagers stand there in silence since they obviously can't say that. The dragons then apologize to Nova, revealing they now know the real identity of the egg's kidnappers. They're now asking for forgiveness for jumping into conclusions and trying to attack Nova and the village. Nova tells them it's no worries and is even glad that Pichan can go home now. Suddenly, Pichan floats from his mother's grasp and goes on to reunite with Nova. They can't believe their child has grown attached to Nova, just proving that he really did take good care of their child. The two dragons then come to an agreement. Turning to the villagers, they make a request of leaving their child's protection in their hands. They're going to deal with the kidnappers, but it's too dangerous to take their child with them. Nova quickly expresses his willingness to take care of Pichan. The dragons then say they're not asking this for free. To protect their child and all of the villagers, they'll place a protective barrier around the village. With that, the two dragons fly up the sky and swirl around, placing their magic energy around the area. Everyone stares in wonder as the dragon's magical barrier is revealed to be a 7-colored light. The dragon then explains the barrier is hastily made so it will only withstand a dragon's breath for about 100 years. That's even longer than Nova's lifespan. When Nova asks about the identity of the kidnappers, the dragon's aura changes to that of immense hatred. It's better for humans not to know. Well, it's not like Nova wants to push his curiosity either. Remember, curiosity killed the cat? Before flying away, the parents remind Pichan to be a good dragon and listen to what everyone says. They then swirl around the sky, promising to teach those insolent fools a lesson. After the dragons leave, Nina shakily asks Nova how he was able to talk to those dragons like that and if his skill had told him what to say. Nova is speechless, still dazed with what happened. Nova then realizes he hasn't checked the Barrel Maker quest yet. Opening the panel, he discovers his current quest has been completed. Both Nina and Land are praising Nova for his incredible courage. Hugging Pichan, Nova can't help smile as he tells the baby dragon he'll count on him from now on. Meanwhile, at the royal capital, a guard reports that 2 large dragons have appeared in the northern forest. They even left a massive magical reaction before flying away. Surprised, the king immediately calls for the heroes for help. After apologizing for the urgent summoning, the king tells Silas that the court magician's assessment has revealed that the dragons that appeared were in fact a pair of shining dragons. Shocked, Silas realizes this could be at Nova's place. The king then details out that he's indeed talking about the dragons spoken of in legends. It's said they can create a blizzard that destroys a country with a single breath. When Silas asks if the dragons are still in the forest, the king tells him the creatures have already flown far away. As far as they can see from the castle, there's no sign of disturbance in the forest. However, there are no records of those dragons appearing near human settlements in the last 100 years. The king also tells him they might need to organize a subjugation force if necessary. For now, he wants to know what's in that place where they released their magical power. With that, the king wants Silas and his group to go on a reconnaissance mission, to which he readily accepts. The next day, Nova and Land are fixing something when Nina urgently tells them something is wrong. She quickly tells them to go to the fields at once. There, they discover a massive plant growing all over the village. Pichan then pops out of nowhere, making Nova realize this is where the baby dragon had pooped. They can't believe dragon poop becomes such amazing fertilizer. They then hear noise coming from nearby. Turning around, they see a horde of poisonous wild boar trying to get inside for the crops. However, they can't seem to enter the village because of the dragon's barrier. No matter how much the boars charge towards the barrier, they just simply bounce off. Giving up, the wild boars turn around and leave. Seeing all this has Nova amazed. So this is the power of the Shining Dragon's barrier. The villagers are happy to know that their fields won't be ravaged by magical beasts anymore. They might be able to start growing vegetables from now on too. One villager then suggests they go gather Pichan's poop and work it into the fields. At this rate, they might be able to hold this year's festival at the usual scale. Thinking about it, Land confirms they could really do so and even secure enough food reserves. When Nova seems puzzled, Nina explains the festival is to celebrate the day Lauro Village was founded. It's the day the first village chief was chosen. They were planning to cancel it this year due to the poor harvest, but thanks to Nova, they can hold it this year. Nina also shares how this will serve as Nova's welcoming party as well. Land is delighted to share that Nova will be their guest of honor and trans-free, so he will be given the right to prepare the main event for the festival. Well, Nova didn't expect that much pressure on him. Land goes on to tell Nova that the person in charge of the main event has to come up with and present a new attraction. If that's not added pressure, then Land also tells him that they're all expecting something interesting from Nova's other-world experience. Meanwhile, at Nova's hut, his letter transportation device has been ringing all day long. It seems that Silas and the group are headed towards the northern forest. Claire closes her eyes, trying to sense out their whereabouts. Because of her skill, they all know they're close since she's sensing strong magical energy in the direction they're currently heading towards. Silas then commands everyone to stay alert and prepare for battle as they advance. On the other side, Nova and Pichan are walking and talking about the new attraction they need to present when the quest panel suddenly beams. Nova is now tasked to gather the forest's blessings so good fortune will come. A chirpy Nova even asks his barrel maker quest if it can give him an idea for their new attraction. As soon as Nova clicks on the drop button, there are two tasks he needs to do. One is gather fruits from the forest and the second is to make a nostalgic dish. Nova stares at it for a few seconds before crying in frustration. He didn't think he's the one who has to come up with the specifics after all. Pichan then jumps onto Nova's head as they continue their stroll. Perhaps this task isn't a difficult one since Nova did work part-time at an izakaya in his original world. Nova suddenly stops his tracks as he finds apples on the ground. Crouching to pick it up, Nova unconsciously dodged an attack from his former comrade who was aiming for Pichan. The poor baby dragon jolts in fright, alerting Nova to turn around. He then sees that all his former comrades are here and are asking if he's hurt. They all gather around the shining dragon which Nova had mentioned in the letter. Now they're accusing Pichan of bringing its parents to harm the village. The innocent-looking Pichan just stares at the group as they all accuse it for baring its fangs at their friend. Nova, on the other hand, tries his best to defend Pichan and tells Silas he's wrong. Nova then takes everyone to Lauro Village and explains that he and the village are safe. This has Silas sighing in relief. Apologizing, Nova had not seen Silas's reply to his letter since forgot to check the teleporter due to various things happening. Looking around, Silas also shares he had heard a lot had happened to the village. It's been less than 10 days since Nova had left the royal capital after all. Claire goes on to inspect the barrier and couldn't believe a shining dragon would create a barrier to protect humans. This barrier apparently prevents those with ill intentions from approaching the village. Silas then turns to Pichan, revealing he did panic when he heard about a dragon, but he's relieved to see that everything in Nova are okay. Nina suddenly arrives to talk to Nova about the upcoming attraction. Land is also behind her, puzzled with who these people are. Nova immediately introduces Silas to Nina and the village chief Land. After introducing himself, Silas shares that the king had ordered them to check if there was any damage from the shining dragon. He then tells them he used to be in a party with Nova. At the mention of that, Nina remembers the heroes Nova had once talked about before. She even spots the hero's medal on Silas's chest, so she's surprised to find out Nova's story really was true. Nova awkwardly laughs. He didn't know Nina and Land didn't believe him after all. The two just give Nova a cheeky smile. Then Silas goes on to get a box from his inner pocket, saying Nova also received the hero's commendation with them. This box, which contains Nova's medal, is proof of it. Silas then reveals that Nova's exile has been revoked and that the king wants to apologize to him. With that, Nova can happily return to the capital with his friends. Before Nova can answer him, Land sees Nina's reaction and tries to change the subject by telling Silas they'll be having a festival in the village soon. He then invites the group to stay and watch, especially that Nova is in charge of putting on an interesting attraction. Claire is also excited to hear this. Silas also wants to stay, so he plans on reporting their safety by letter. With that, they don't need to return immediately. Land then ushers Silas and the group to a room they'll prepare for them. Now that they're alone, Nina asks Nova if he's going back to the royal capital now. Pichan also waits for Nova's answer with worry. Chuckling, Nova is relieved that the king's misunderstanding has been cleared up, but for now he wants to make the festival a success as a member of Laro village. Although it's not a direct answer, Nina tells Nova she's glad that he's deciding on what he wants. On the subject of the festival, Nova gets a paper from his pocket and asks Nina if they can prepare these kinds of tools. Seeing the list, Nina is curious with what Nova's going to make. Showing her the apples, he shares how he had found some useful things in the forest earlier and would like to use them for the festival. Beaming with excitement, Nina wants them to do their best, especially that Silas and the others are here. The day of the festival soon arrives and the village is buzzing with the preparations. Nova is busy cooking while his friends help him out with it. Everyone cheers, marking the start of the festivities. With everything ready, Nova tells everyone they'll start prepping outside now. With that, they take all their prepped ingredients outside where Nova starts cooking. There, he stirs, cuts, mixes his ingredients. They can really tell Nova is determined on impressing everyone with how laser-focused he is right now. Once done, Nova reveals the dish to be okonomiyaki. Everyone stares at the deliciousness of the dish, their mouths watering as they take a whiff of Nova's dish. Nova then shares that this dish is from the world he was in, and the ingredients are vegetables and fruits gathered from the forest and village. Silas and the others also take a bite on the dish, reveling in on the wonderful sauce it came with. Silas can't believe that mountains of vegetables would turn to a delicious meal like this. Everyone is now lining up to take a plate of the dish, making Nova laugh in the process. The day goes by with Nova busy cooking and serving everyone. Nova is so busy that he didn't even see that the first village chief's statue is starting to melt. It's Silas who takes notice of this and quickly tells Nova to look at the bronze statue behind him. Before Nova can turn around, the statue has already cracked, revealing a magical woman who's said to be Magic Golem type 707. Now that its reboot is complete, it's now searching for her master. However, it couldn't locate matching individuals nearby, so it switches to autonomous mode and is resuming unfulfilled orders from 150,000 days ago. Nova's Barrel Maker quest panel suddenly chimes, revealing another task Nova needs to fulfill right now. He has to make a nostalgic dish to serve the golem, and he needs to do this quick or the golem will destroy everything on the surface. The golem is only resuming its final order, which is to destroy everything on the surface. Everyone is appalled, staring at the animated village chief statue. Now Nova is in real pressure, especially that the golem is starting to unleash its power on the villagers. Silas quickly commands everyone to hurry and get away from the area. As the golem opens its mouth to attack, Nova looks fried. He doesn't know what to do. Everyone manages to retreat, but the golem's attack causes a massive explosion in the forest. The golem then detects the barrier, prompting that attacks outside it is reduced by 90%. The golem's main body mobility has also reduced to 30%. Nova is sweating heaps, in disbelief that the golem is weakened even with that power. Silas then tells him that the magic golem is a product of an ancient civilization that flourished hundreds of years ago. Its combat power is incomparable to modern magic golems, making Silas wonder why it's here in the first place. The golem has now transformed into a monster-looking one, telling everyone it'll destroy the barrier along with the surrounding area. Rushing in front, Bask uses the table as protection before using his skill Absolute Barrier. With that, they manage to block the golem's ravaging attack. But he won't stand against the golem for long, so Silas instructs his comrades to provide support and attack the golem. While Claire unleashes her magic to trap the golem in ropes, the other two go on to attack it with their respective weapons. However, their attacks are rendered useless because the golem's body appears to be incredibly hard. Silas then uses his skill Iron Cutting to sheath his sword with magic. He then turns around to ask the slightly injured Bask if he can move. When he says yes, Bask quickly gets his equipment. Silas in turn asks Claire to assist Bask. Turning to Nova, Silas asks him to evacuate the premises as well, but Nova only gives him a determined smile. He might not be much help with a sword, but he can fight as well. Sighing, Silas remembers that Nova isn't really a man who runs away from danger. With that, Nova reveals that a Barrel Maker quest has appeared and that they have to serve food to the golem. Nova believes this is a hint on how to defeat the golem. Well, it's a difficult task, especially that they don't know what will happen afterwards. But one thing's for sure, they have to protect Laruo village. So Silas and the others try their best to distract the golem, attacking it continuously and simultaneously. Meanwhile, Nina is scolding Lan for not telling them that the village chief statue was a golem. In Lan's defense, he didn't know either. It's said that the first village chief defeated a great enemy here and founded the village. Was that enemy a golem then? Golems are supposedly legendary things used in ancient civilization wars. Their destructive power was said to be one of the causes that destroyed the civilization itself. Hearing that and seeing the sight before her, Nina can't help but worry for Nova's life. While Nova is busy making the dish, his friends are also busy protecting him and distracting the golem at the same time. Everyone is still okay somehow, managing to dodge the golem's attacks for the time being. Didi turns to ask Silas what their next plan is. Even with Silas's skill enhancing the blade's sharpness, it still won't cut through. Just then, Bask arrives to support his team. Now that Bask is in his armor, Silas orders him and Claire to help out. Things are looking bad, especially that the golem has already recovered enough magical energy to fire its heat beam again. Claire then tries to devise a plan. If she uses Bask's shield with her magic and simultaneously debuff the golem's movements, they might be able to withstand one hit. Though this is quite a risky plan. But they don't have choice, do they now? The golem is chanting the word destroy over and over again as it's what it was ordered to do in the first place. Bursting in tears, Didi believes they're all doomed now. But Silas doesn't think so. There's still a chance for victory, and that lies with Nova and his barrel quest completion. Now that he's done cooking, Nova approaches the golem and brings it some food. He then tells the golem that today's supposed to be a festival, so he asks that it forgets about orders and try the delicious food he had made. However, the golem only blows the food into bits and pieces, saying the intent of Nova's statement is unclear. Angry for wasting food, Nova throws it at the golem. With the golem distracted, Silas gives them the go signal to charge at it. Silas with his sword and Nova with his food. Nova quickly plunges the plate full of food into the golem's mouth. However, it gets a hold of Nova's arm. Luckily, Silas attacks it on time, so it manages to let go of Nova. The golem is now standing there, wide-eyed. When it steps onto some of the wasted food, it slips and falls to the ground. Both Silas and Nova stare at the golem in shock, especially that it's now stuttering as it says it has now achieved its goal. Silas realizes the golem is now confused and prompts this as their chance to defeat it. However, Nova stops him from destroying it. While the golem is setting up another goal, Nova crouches down to tell it that it needs to destroy something. The golem's eyes then light up before Nova tells it to destroy the Destroy Everything order and its own destruction program. The golem's head turns towards Nova as it confirms it will destroy the heart that destroys. Suddenly, the golem starts writhing, scaring the life out of Nova. Everyone then starts surrounding the golem, with Claire revealing that its magical energy is rapidly diminishing as they speak. Nina hurriedly runs to give Nova a hug, worrying that he was going to die. She starts crying in relief. With that, Silas asks Claire to analyze the golem. Using her magic, they find out that the shattered golem core is mixed into the statue's metal. The first village chief probably defeated the golem and sealed it in the statue. Over a long period of time, the core fragments connected like nerves and somehow the seal broke, reviving it as a golem. Nova can't believe someone could do that against an ancient civilization golem, especially that this was supposed to be the first village chief. Now he's curious as to who did this. Meanwhile, Silas is telling Land that they'll be taking the golem back to the royal capital so the court magicians can properly seal it. But then the golem's eyes suddenly open. When everyone else is ready to run away again, Nova stands there as the golem now recognizes him as its master. Gone is the evil-looking girl, and in place is a cute, cheerful golem that's waiting for its master's orders. Nova is too stunned to speak. Meanwhile, something is wreaking havoc in the deep mountains. Trees are being ravaged with fire, even the monkeys are retreating. Suddenly, a huge explosion blows the area away. It seems that the golem's awakening has also awakened another spring. Whatever this spring is, let's hope it's another one of the good fortune cookies. Nova is beyond startled as he stares at the golem, who's now greeting him. Good morning, and even calling him master. He doesn't even know how to answer its question when it asked of Nova's orders. And why wouldn't Nova be reacting like this when he's being called master by the golem who wanted to destroy everything earlier? The golem then starts leaps to the sky, asking Nova what should she destroy right now. Seeing the golem flying in the air, Pichan also flies towards her. Nova then looks towards Silas, asking why the golem is calling him master. Silas believes the golem's soul was rewritten by Nova's command, so it must have been reset as Nova being its master. Interrupting their conversation, the golem asks Nova if he wants her to quickly destroy the forest to expand the village. Of course, Nova gives her a sounding no, saying destruction is not allowed. The golem responds back with disappointment. It looks like the golem and Pichan are getting along well too. Watching them interact, Silas tells Nova that golems are absolutely loyal to their master's orders. But still, Nova thinks her personality changed way too much. From evil forest destroyer to lovable girl next door. There's also the question as to why there's an ancient weapon in this small village. And it being the statue of the first village chief, no less. Land is really confused too. The golem then turns to them, asking if they meant the human who had her exact same body shape. She then explains that the first village chief had battled the golem and sealed it a long time ago. It was a seal that couldn't be broken unless touched by something from the same world as that human. When the sauce had stained the statue during the festival, it broke. Hearing this, Nova is surprised to learn that his okonomiyaki sauce was the reason. Could this mean that the first village chief was also a transferee from Japan like Nova? Nova is curious if this golem will be okay. Besides that, Nova also wants to know the golem's name, to which it enthusiastically says she's Magic Golem 707. Land thinks that's a bit hard for them to say, so he suggests giving her the name Golem Chan instead. Golem Chan readily agrees, saying Land's name suggestion is totally destructive and she likes it. Golem Chan then tells them she won't destroy anything unless her master allows it. With that, Silas recommends that things stay that way since it's safer if Nova's her master for now. After agreeing with Silas, Nova extends his hand to formally welcome Golem Chan to the village. However, Golem-chan flies to the sky with overexcitement, even saying she's feeling so motivated today. That's when Claire realizes something really important. Apparently golems use their master's magical power as their energy source, so even skilled mages find it difficult in getting used to controlling them. Coincidentally, Nova's whole body suddenly feels heavy, and bam, he collapses to the ground, worrying everyone around him. Even P-chan is worried. The next morning, Nova wakes up in his bed. Sitting up, he sees P-chan, Golem-chan, and Nina greeting him good morning. Nina is worried if he's really okay to be up right now. Most importantly, she's worried if Nova has enough magical power to be Golem-chan's master. Hearing this, Golem-chan chimes in, telling Nina she's going to be a good golem and won't burden her master. She even shows Nina what she calls a sign of peace. Golem-chan then shares how she destroyed the festival grounds. Startled, Nova visibly looks at her with worry. What Golem-chan intended to say is that she helped clean up after the festival, which Nina backs up. After that, Nova decides to open his barrel maker quest and finds out that his current task has progressed a bit. Then he sees a new one on the screen. This time it says the golem's light awakens another spring. Now Nova is wondering if the golem's light is the beam it released in its destructive form. This also has Nina realizing that Silas and the others went out to check the forest damages this morning. Suddenly they hear Land scream, telling the villagers that the village is being surrounded by slimes. If not for the Shining Dragon's barrier, the slimes would have infiltrated the village as well. This is way beyond an abnormal occurrence. When Nova goes out to see this major problem, he's taken aback. Even the trees are covered in slime. Golem-chan then happily asks if she can burn all of the slime right now. Before Nova could answer, Silas and the others are rushing back to the village. They're even slicing off the slimes while doing so. Silas then urgently tells them that the water in the river has suddenly elevated and the slimes keep spawning. Silas wants to investigate this matter further, so he asks someone to guide him going there. Nina doesn't hesitate and tells him she'll go with him. Turning towards his comrades, Silas orders them to stay back and protect the village. Nova also wants to go and help out, but before he could tell Silas, the Barrel Maker quest panel suddenly pops up. Another task is at bay. Nova now has to go on a spring outing with a golden vessel lunchbox, and so they had to prepare some sandwiches and fruits to bring to this so-called outing. Nina isn't too happy to learn that Nova had taken the golden ruby scales. Apparently they're going to use them as plates. It's all Nova could think of for golden. Nina then tells him to take care of the scales because she still plans on selling them. After a while of walking in the forest, Nina stops her tracks as she realizes the air is becoming more humid. Silas confirms this, warning everyone that slimes become more active in warm weather, so they all need to be careful. Suddenly, a huge amount of water bursts in front of them. Lo and behold, there's a geyser here now. This certainly wasn't here before, so Silas thinks the beam from yesterday must have destroyed an underground water reservoir. The only happy right now is Golem-chan, who's cheering on for this destruction. Meanwhile, Nova is deep in thought. Just what does this geyser have to do with a spring? What's missing in all of this? Golem-chan suddenly sneezes so forcibly that her spring actually came off. Seeing this, Nova believes the spring might be related to Golem-chan, who's now staring at her master puzzled. After that, Nova takes the time to feel the water on his feet. It's hot, and hot water would mean there's a heat source nearby. But how is that possible without a volcano nearby? In the midst of his pondering, the geyser suddenly bursts out a lot of slimes. And not long, a massive slime comes out of the geyser. Everyone takes a step backward, completely surprised with the sight before them. All the smaller slimes are wiggling and jiggling on the ground. Seeing the big slime has them realizing that this could be the boss causing the slime outbreak, and its nest could be the underground water reservoir. When Silas draws out his sword to try and kill the giant slime, Nina quickly stops him because the slime looks like it's storing toxins inside its body. If they defeat it and poison flows out, the forest will be in much more danger. This explains a lot. Slimes normally eat organic matter and impurities in water, but this overgrown one has monopolized the forest's nutrients. And because it split and increased in number, there's even less food, so the smaller slimes became blood-sucking creatures that attack animals. Nina is also curious if these slimes accumulated poison little by little from eating so much. Silas thinks the same, especially that the heat source might be the way to digest poison. Warm environments make slimes multiply rapidly, so if they want to defeat this thing, they need to do something about this heat. Raising her hand, Golem-chan's eyes sparkle as she volunteers to blast away the poison without a single trace. That may sound like a good idea, but Nova's magical power definitely won't last. Suddenly, the huge slime sees Nova and targets the hero. Everyone screams for Nova to run away as the huge slime is about to pounce him with its slimy hand. Escaping from the slime, Nova quickly lets go of the food pack he had prepared earlier. As the food flies into the air, the slime's hand goes out to grab it. It was never meant to attack Nova, but was going to get the food instead. It quickly devours the whole lunchbox. However, it spats out the golden fish scales, making Nova question if it's not edible. When he goes to get the scales, Nova discovers them to be hot, like scalding hot. Of course, he lets go of them. It takes a few seconds before it's cold enough to touch. When Nova picks it up again, he gets the bright idea of making a heat sink. It's a method of cooling hot things by attaching a metal with good heat conductivity. Nova then thinks they can use the golden fish scales to cool that huge slime. Out of nowhere, the Barrel Maker quest panel pops up, revealing another task at hand. The spring sun shines golden, that's what it says. Reading this, Nova was right all along. They're going to use the golden fish scale after all. However, Nova's a bit worried with how small it is. When Nina hears Nova's plan, she asks him to wait and reminds him they were going to take it to town to sell. Backing away, Nova awkwardly laughs and tells her plans have changed now. Nina's face is full of dread, and not long she gets teary-eyed as she tells Nova to use the scales now. With the scales in his hand, Nova faces the huge slime. Silas then gives support, telling Nova to go from behind while they distract it. Nova quickly does so, but he discovers it to be too hot to touch. It's really too hot to cling onto. The slime is about to grab Nova when Golem-chan stops it with her bare hands. Smiling, she tells Nova to leave this matter to her. Then she hurls the slime's hand away. After that, she turns to ask Nova if he's okay, telling him that golems aren't bothered by heat. She then asks Nova if he'll let her do this, promising him she can. Extending her hand, Golem-chan asks Nova for the golden fish scales. Seeing Golem-chan's determined face, Nova gives her the golden fish scales and instructs her to stick it into its head. Golem-chan gives him a wide smile before flying to the air with the golden fish scales. However, worry brews in Nova as he sees Golem-chan somewhat being eaten by the huge slime. Nova screams for Golem-chan, who's indeed inside the slime right now, but she's all good and just swimming her way up to the slime's head. Once there, Golem-chan popped out of the slime to wave at her master. When Nova asks if she's okay, Golem-chan tells him she is. Golem-chan then looks at the golden fish scales in her hands. Her gaze then looks back and forth from the scales to the slime's head. After deciding where to place the scales, Golem-chan immediately plunges the scales atop the slime's head. Golem-chan has managed to form a cute little crown of the scales too. Once she's done, Golem-chan signals Nova from below. Suddenly, the huge slime lets out very hot air, making the others wince in pain. Silas then asks if they can lower the heat even more, if only they had something to cool it down more right now. At that point, Pichon steps in and flies directly towards the slime's head. A worried Nova calls out for the Shining Dragon. Pichon is actually the answer to their problem right now. The Shining Dragon quickly blows ice where Golem-chan had formed the golden fish scales. After some time, the Shining Dragon's ice blizzard has completely cooled down the huge slime, who is now turning docile. It has finally calmed down thanks to Pichon's icy breath. Although their immediate problem has been solved, Silas asks Nova on the matters of the huge slime's habitat. If they leave this thing alone here, the forest will remain filled with dangerous slimes. Do they wait until it digests the poison before killing it? Nova grows silent, deep in thought. Looking at the huge slime, he wonders if they can actually isolate this creature somehow. And poof, the Barrel Maker quest panel suddenly pings again. A new task has come. This time it says, the spring sun rises in the sky. Crossing his arms, Nova is puzzled with what rise in the sky means. Do they send the slime flying into the sky? If so, how? Golem-chan happily raises her hand and calls Nova's attention. She then says she can turn this spring into a floating island in the sky using the internal magical power of ancient magic. This will weaken some of her combat functions, but this will also mean it'll reduce the consumption of Nova's magical power. Nova won't have to collapse from magical power depletion anymore. As Nina says, it's killing two birds with one stone. And so Golem-chan begins her new mission. Everyone braces themselves as the ground starts shaking. Not long after, the area is now an island floating in the sky. Even the villagers can see the huge island being raised from the ground. Imagine Lan's jaw-dropping reaction. While this is all happening, Nova's vision starts to darken until he finally falls unconscious. Sometime later, Nina tries waking him up. She even helps him sit down while asking on what happened. Golem-chan then calls him, saying it was a great success. This is when Nova realizes what they were doing before he had collapsed. His eyes widen in surprise as he takes in the view below him. Yup, they're on the floating island Golem-chan had made. It's a pretty amazing view too. Besides that, they all remember the slime they're trying to isolate. There, the huge slime calmly looks at Nova before plunging into the deep water. It went back to the underground water reservoir, making Nina cry as her golden fish scales is now gone. Stepping into the water, Golem-chan tells them it's now a pond. Nova also steps into the water and realizes Golem-chan is right. The water temperature is just perfect too. He then remembers something and quickly asks everyone to take off their shoes. And with that, Silas, Nova, and Nina are all enjoying the relaxing feeling of the hot spring. The warmth the spring is giving them. Oh, what a feeling. As Nova's body relaxes, Golem-chan can also feel that her master's magical power is recovering rapidly. Nina also praises the clear water where their feet are soaked in. This is probably thanks to that slime eating all the impurities. Hearing this, Nova believes it's some kind of cycle where the slime breaks down the impurities and generates heat to become hot water. Getting yet another bright idea, Nova quickly turns to Golem-chan to ask if she can return to Laro village right away. Smiling, she immediately agrees, explaining she can connect to her pedestal in the village with a whoosh. Although he's puzzled, Nova can't ask about it because right now they're all being whooshed. In a matter of seconds they're now at Laruo village. Golem-chan proudly tells them that they can always return to the island by touching her pedestal. Even Land is shocked to see them, sharing that a huge island floated up from the forest all the way up to the sky. When he asks if it's Nova's doing, the hero only lets out an awkward chuckle. This has Land rubbing his forehead in disbelief, asking for more information about this incident. So now he knows that Golem-chan had lifted the slime boss along with its habitat into the sky using Golem-chan's internal magical power. Silas then tells him how this should reduce the number of slimes in the forest and make them more docile. The giant slime also calmed down after they lowered its elevated body temperature. Nina's already excited because this means it'll be safer to move throughout the forest now. Land now sees the better side of things. Calling his attention, Nova tells him of his idea. He wants to turn Laruo village into a stopover town for adventurers. Seeing Nina and Land's shocked faces, Nova details out how he knows from Nina that the village doesn't have funds to hire adventurers. Nova has been thinking about how he could be of use to this village all this time. Hearing his friend say this, Silas smiles and agrees with Nova. If there was a place to rest here, it would really help them and all the other adventurers. This forest is relatively close to the royal capital but hasn't been developed much. This is because dangerous creatures like poison wild boars and blood-sucking slimes make it impossible to set up camp and explore. So Nova got the idea of using that new hot spring on the Sky Island to make money. When all the other heroes heard the word hot spring, they scream in excitement. That's truly something they can't ignore at all. Of course, Nova explains it'll need some work, but it's still amazing that a hot spring is here in their village. It's supposedly rare to bathe in hot water. Nina then realizes this is even more profitable than the lost golden ruby fish. They might be able to make a profit with the hot spring. Seeing Nina's twinkling eyes has Land staring at her dumbfounded. Calling Land, Nova asks him to take a look at the Sky Island and that they can go there with a whoosh from where they stand. Not long, Land and the others are also enjoying the hot spring. They all know this will be a hit with adventurers. Land immediately calls for a strategy meeting at the dining hall. That night, the dining hall is bolstering with excitement, making Nova smile as he sees the building from outside. He then spots Silas, who informs Nova that they'll be going back to the royal capital now so they could properly report about this village to the king. When he asks if the barrel maker is going with them, Nova gives Silas a warm smile before telling him he'll be staying in this village for now. Silas never expected such answer, so he tries reminding Nova that his exile has already been reversed. Although Nova is thankful to his friends that he's able to receive the title of a hero, he still wants to find what he can do with his own power in this village. Nina, who happens to be passing by, stops to listen to their conversation. When Silas asks if this is because of the barrel maker quest, Nova smilingly tells him no. It's just because he wants to, even though he thinks he still lacks the ability. With that, Silas finally understands his friend's reason, and so they all bid Nova goodbye, promising to visit again soon, especially that the village is just close to the royal capital. Claire's even looking forward to see the hot spring. They're hoping it'll be finished by the time they visit. Once Nova waves them goodbye, his barrel maker quest panel suddenly pops up to inform him that his tasks are now complete. This means the entire "if you enter the river you'll find your place" is stamped complete, making Nova smile. A few days later at the royal capital, the king is shocked to learn that everything that happened in the forest was because of Nova's power. Silas confirms it as the result of Nova working for the people. Hearing that there's a dragon, an ancient golem, and a flying island in Laruo village, the king decides to visit the said village immediately. The king then explains it's not for leisure but to personally express his apologies to Nova. Silas thinks this is a great idea. However, a man chimes in, saying Nova is a failure with a useless skill. Turning around, the king greets the man who's now saying he, Reinhardt, the castle kicker, shall accompany the king. To ensure that this transferee disgrace doesn't cause trouble for his majesty. Meanwhile, back at Laruo village, their new specialty has started its preparations. A breathtaking hot spring floating in the sky. Everyone, including all the villagers, is helping out with all the things needed to be done. Suddenly, the huge slime comes out of the water. When Land notices it, he waves his hand and apologizes to Faisuke for all the noise. Land has named the slime Faisuke since it's a fire slime. Nina knows Faisuke is safe, but she's a bit worried that first-time visitors might get surprised upon seeing it. Nova agrees and thinks about it. Right now, Faisuke is in a hole at the bottom of the water. He then suggests they put up a fence to prevent anyone from messing with the slime. Golem-chan immediately raises her hand, telling Nova she can handle any work underwater. Nova then thanks her and the work is all set. Now that Golem-chan's functions are reduced, Nova's magic consumption has become manageable. Land then approaches Nova to tell him he's going to the royal capital to get various supplies. When asked if he wants to come along, Nova readily agrees. After prepping the carriage, both Land and Nova make their way towards the royal capital. Land then shares how he never thought that Laruo village, which was barely self-sufficient, is now becoming so lively. He thanks Nova for it. It's been bustling ever since he arrived. When Nova asks about how Laruo village came to be, Land happily shares that there were only 1 to 2 houses with fields at that time, and adventurers who happened to drift by ended up settling down. Land had also stumbled upon it when he was young and settled here after retiring. It's a nice quiet place after all. Nina's parents are like that too. Her parents are active adventurers and are still working outside. Land then shares how Nina also wants to become a treasure hunting adventurer in the future. Chuckling, Nova comments how Nina seems likely to discover lots of treasures. This is why everyone in the village is excited about Nova's ideas. They want to be useful to adventurers too. But the shopping list he's been asked to get is quite long. Now Land's worried if they even have enough money to begin with. After a while they arrive at the royal capital where they immediately go about to get the materials. Nova's smiling widely as he takes in the capital's surroundings. It's been a while since he's been near the royal capital. After they've gotten most of what they needed, Land tells the barrel maker he has a shop he'd like to visit. Suddenly the barrel maker quest panel pops up saying there's a new mission for Nova. Reading it, Nova is beyond confused. Get it if you don't buy it. What does that even mean? A task under the new mission suddenly appears, telling Nova to keep what you want to buy a secret from everyone. Land then chimes in, asking Nova if he wants a village specialty. Curious, Nova guesses it's a blacksmith. When they enter the shop, Nova is amazed with the weapons displayed, especially this sharp sword in front of them. This is it. This is exactly what they need. This is a replica of a magic sword. Land's eyes begin to sparkle. He's already expected much since it's the royal blacksmith, of course. He really thought it was the original too. Land thinks this will be great to display this amazing sword on their hot spring island. But Nova knows Land just wants this for himself. Looking around, Nova only spots the workers. With this, he thinks he can quickly clear his task since no one's around right now. Land's busy scanning the price tag and is quickly dismayed. The sword is actually the price of a 4-horse carriage with horses included. His wife will definitely get angry at Land for this. Another customer then enters the shop and quickly notices Nova. Coincidentally, Bask is here with his weapon on his shoulder. Apparently, he always comes here for weapon maintenance. When he asks what Land and Nova are up to, the village chief tells him he wants to buy the magic sword replica. Bask immediately expresses his admiration for the shop. All the works here are excellent, but this sword Land has his eyes on, along with the legend of the Dragon Slayer, is impeccable. Bask has replicas of the magic sealing sword and the imperial sword. But this Talanus magic sword is also amazing. Hearing this, Nova can't help but think that his friend is talking way too much. The barrel maker quest panel then tells Nova he has failed his first task. Now he's dreading the next part. When a quest fails, the alternate route apparently becomes more difficult. With the first task slashed out, another one appears below it which says Nova needs to anger the blacksmith owner. Nova doesn't know what to do now. He could just ignore it, but Land really wants that sword. He can even hear Bask asking the blacksmith if they had anything more affordable, to which the blacksmith shakes his head no. Even for his friend's acquaintance, he can't sell his work for cheap. Dejected, Land sighs. He now sees it impossible to buy the sword. He really wants it though. Hearing this, Nova can't help but follow through with the barrel maker quest. And so Nova closes his eyes before raising his hand to offer 30 copper coins. He can only offer that much if the blacksmith can lower the price to that amount. Both Land and Bask are taken aback with Nova's offer. The blacksmith's eyes squint in anger and not long he kicks all 3 of them out of his shop. Bask then goes to Nova asking why he would ask the blacksmith such a ridiculous thing. Even if it's only a replica, it's still a craftsman's masterpiece. To offer a cheap price for it is just outright offensive. Nova slowly tries to explain that it's all part of his barrel maker quest. He even tells them that the quest will give him a magic sword if he did this. Suddenly, the shop's door bursts open, revealing a very angry blacksmith with his double-headed hammer. All 3 of them try to run away as the blacksmith throws his weapons at them. All Nova could say is he's sorry, but the blacksmith angrily tells them to never come back again. As they continue running and dodging, a carriage happens to be heading the opposite direction. Because of the weapons the blacksmith is throwing, the horse gets startled and the carriage loses balance. It turns out they were at a bridge, so all the carriage's contents are now falling off the bridge and into the water, and with that the task clears out. Sometime later, the blacksmith has calmed down as well. Everyone, including the blacksmith, go back to the shop where the master is in deep sorrow. Nova quickly apologizes, blaming himself as the reason why the package for the blacksmith fell into the waterway. The blacksmith denies this, saying it was him that lost his temper in the first place. Still, this is a huge problem since the materials that fell into the waterway were needed for an urgent order. He even shares how the shop was actually robbed the other day and had to close the shop for a while. It's just one problem after another. Leaving the shop, Nova guiltily sits down near the waterway. He feels so guilty for doing something so terrible, even if it was for the barrel maker quest. Land tries to console Nova, saying the hero only did it for him. For now, all they can do is try to do whatever they can to help out. When Bask asks if the next task is already available, Nova sadly looks up to see the panel. Turns out, the next task is already up. They need to find a school of killfish. As usual, Nova is confused. Does this mean they need to chase small fish? Coincidentally, they're already near the waterway. Nova then spots the small fishes swimming towards the tunnel. Nova believes these fish had escaped because of the package falling into the waterway earlier. Wanting to follow them, the 3 men head down. Nova crouches and finds that the tunnel has iron bars. He tries wriggling one which looks like it might come off. With the iron bars off, the three men enter the tunnel. At first, the tunnel is so dark they can't see a single thing. However, the tunnel soon became manageable. As they venture further down the tunnel, Land recalls what the blacksmith had said about the thieves that broke into the shop. Land wonders if those thieves were using this as their hidden passage. Noticing a slither of light peeking through a sealed window across the water, the men go on to open it. As soon as they enter through the window, the three men discover boxes and boxes of a bunch of stuff. There's tanned leather and healing potions. Even mithril silver is here. They soon hear voices coming from the stairs. Not long, a bunch of lizard men come down carrying some other stuff. While arranging their stuff, the lizard men complain on how pretty mediocre today's haul was. They then mention that they initially targeted the blacksmith's wagon, but they never knew it would get into an accident. Because of that, people had gathered and the lizard men couldn't do their job. Seeing all these goods and hearing the lizard men's conversation, the three men believes these are the thieves the blacksmith had mentioned. Suddenly, the barrel maker quest panel pops up with a new task: return the stolen goods to their owners. No doubt now these are the thieves. Nova quickly stands up and asks the lizard men to return the stolen goods. Frazzled by their presence, the lizard men immediately go on to kill these intruders. However, Bask has already stood behind them, lurking in the shadows. Without a second thought, Bask punches the lizard straight in the face. Nova is also struggling with another lizard while Land is attacking the lizard with a stick he had found. That night, Nova, Bask, and Land manage to defeat the thieves and gather all the stolen goods at the town square. A lot of merchants are now here trying to see if their goods are there. One has found his gold work among the stolen goods. The blacksmith hurries to the front and sees the mithril silver. This is what was stolen from his shop the other day. He had completely given up looking for these, but alas, it's now here. The blacksmith expresses his deep gratitude to Nova and the others. Now he can finally resume his weapon-making work. Wanting to repay them for this, the blacksmith invites the three men to his shop. There, the blacksmith presents them with a shining new sword. Bask immediately inspects it up close. This is the replica of the Black Sun's magic sword, Dark Stera Bind. Scratching the back of his head, the blacksmith tells them how he put his all into making it, but it was too costly to sell. With twinkling eyes, Land takes hold of the magic sword as the blacksmith asks them to accept this sword as a token of his gratitude. The three men are all excited with their new toy. It even lights up when they grip it at a certain area. And so their quest for today ends with a successful completion. They really got a magic sword and didn't need to buy one. Chuckling, Bask says this magic sword will surely liven up the king's visit to Laro village. This has Land and Nova's eyes widening in surprise. Seeing their reactions, Bask immediately realizes the notice has not reached the village yet. And so he details out that the king is interested in Laruo village, and Bask has heard from Silas that his majesty is visiting soon. Meanwhile, a long-haired man goes to report to Reinhardt that Nova doesn't seem to be a threat in terms of combat. At least that's judging from the recon he's done today. Reinhardt is still annoyed. He thinks it's annoying that a transferee with a useless skill who was supposed to be exiled is being fawned over by heroes and the king himself. Nova, in Reinhardt's eyes, is just like his three men over here. Useless. Grinning, Reinhardt says the king will be in danger in that village, and he, the hero, will be one to save him. He then looks out the window as if he's talking to Nova, telling him to do his best not to lose the king's trust with that useless skill of his. While Nova rushes back to Laro village, new transferees have appeared. Nina, Golemchan, and Pichan all notice that Land and Nova are back. The two men are sweating and out of breath from their trip. The girls immediately inform them of an urgent matter they need to discuss. A special envoy from the king just came. Opening the letter, Land informs everyone that the king wants to visit next month. Nina can't contain her excitement. With such an important event, Laro village might become famous. After Nova agrees, he asks them what their plans and preparations will be. Land then tells them they can't fail at hospitality. If they displease the king, he might shut the whole village down. Suddenly, the Barrel Maker quest panel pops up. It's a new quest. If the king gets hot, loneliness will loosen, it says. Underneath it, the task on entertaining the king with a banquet is jotted down. While Nova takes this banquet seriously, Land sees this as an opportunity to have alcohol. Everyone else cheers too. Land then tells everyone that if it's a Barrel Maker quest, there should be no mistake about this. He then instructs Nova and Nina to prepare the alcohol, and the rest of the villagers will complete the facilities on Hot Spring Island. Nova and Nina quickly get to work while Land is busy decorating Golemchan's pedestal with their new magic sword. Although Nova is smiling, there's one thing that's been bugging him. Bask had mentioned that a transferee like Nova is said to be guarding the king. It's none other than Reinhardt, the castle kicker. Reinhardt's skill is leg strength XX. He's a hero who destroyed and annihilated an orc stronghold nestled in the frontier with a single blow. Rumor has it he's quite belligerent. It's unnatural for him to come to a peaceful place like Laro village. Nova's smile grows even wider. He never knew there were such amazing transferees. Nova hopes he'll get along with them. After some time, the Hot Spring Island is complete. It now has a bath, a lodge, and a warehouse. The return port to the village is also up and running. The time for the king's visit has finally arrived, just in time too. Everyone is wearing their best smiles as they greet His Majesty, the king. As soon as he spots Nova, the king immediately waves him hello. He immediately goes to Nova and apologizes for exiling him when all he did was save the king that day. Shaking his head, Nova says it was him who suddenly acted rudely, so the king's actions were totally justifiable. He's just glad the king's safe. Suddenly Pichan sits himself on Nova's shoulder, shocking the king. Seeing the shining dragon, the king is in pure amazement. Pichan immediately flies to the king, who's now petting the dragon. The king starts blushing. The legendary fearsome dragon he knows of is terrifying, but Pichan is very fluffy. The king soon notices the island in the sky and quickly asks if that's the rumored hot spring. Land then points his hands to the pedestal, saying the whole village had prepared the hot spring, so they're excited for the king to try it. Excited, the king turns to Reinhardt, leaving the ground protection to him. The king is initially confused how they'd get to that island from the pedestal. Soon he shouts in surprise when the transport begins whooshing them. With that, Nova stares at Reinhardt and his men. He immediately goes to greet Reinhardt, saying he's never met another transferi, so he hopes to be friends with them. When Nova extends his hand for a handshake, Reinhardt just flicks it away. The castle kicker warns Nova not to get too familiar since he's just a guy with a useless skill. Nova is taken aback with Reinhardt's rudeness. The castle kicker isn't done yet. He says they were summoned to protect this country and Reinhardt has achieved results with his leg strength X. But Nova's skill is just as useless as the guys he's with, no combat power at all. Fukuto's skill is turning misfortune to fortune. Sho here has the skill to summon brute strength, and Ten's skill is red light green light. Grinning devilishly, Reinhardt believes the king is too kind-hearted. That's why he tells Nova not to get cocky just because things went well a bit. Reinhardt then leaves a speechless Nova behind. He isn't scared of the castle kicker, more of the ominous feeling he's getting from behind his back. Both Nina and Golem-chan aren't happy with Reinhardt. In fact, they're both very furious. Golem-chan's already breathing fire, asking her master to destroy Reinhardt. Using Pichan as protection, he tries to change the subject by asking if the king is pleased with the hot spring. Nina chirpily tells him yes, even adding that their hospitality is a great success. Checking the panel, Nova sees that his first barrel maker task has been cleared, and the next one is already listed. Keep the king away from worldly troubles until night, it says. Reading this, Nova is puzzled with what it means. Unbeknownst to them, Reinhardt is already signaling Sho, who's now getting a small ball from his pocket. Using his skill Summon Brute Strength, which momentarily imbues the right ring finger with superhuman strength, Sho unleashes the ball into the air. The ball also has a hole in it and is simply a device that lets out a loud noise. The ball's loud sound echoes throughout the forest that even Nina is covering her ears. However, mysterious birds have been drawn in because of the sound. Nova has noticed the creatures that flew out of the forest and realizes they're all headed to the floating island. It's not just any bird, these are griffins, monsters from the mountain foothills. Seeing these creatures has Nina wondering why they're suddenly here. The ball is still flying in the sky, making that loud noise. Not long, it hits the island's bottom and the other griffins are now heading straight to it. Nova realizes this is bad. Their hot spring island clearly has no magic barrier and the king is in danger. Nova then hears Reinhardt say it'll be a big problem if something had happened to His Majesty. He then sarcastically asks Nova to solve this problem with his barrel maker quest skill. Meanwhile, Sho's left leg is currently cramping and will be cramping for a while because of his skill. Nina screams at Reinhardt to get out of the way since she's going to tell the king everything the castle kicker has done. Reinhardt only laughs at her. Although Nina presses on Reinhardt, Nova stops her and tells her of the task. The barrel maker quest has tasked them of this. The king mustn't know about this commotion. And so Nova asks Stratodum-chan to fly and take Nina to the island so they can warn land about the situation. Right now they must distract the king from finding out about this problem. Nova then asks Golem-chan if she can drive away the griffin in the sky during that time. Golem-chan wastes no time at all and quickly gets to work. Even Pichan is going with them. Meanwhile, Reinhardt is disappointed to see that the golem can fly. Well, Nova's here to deal with this douchebag. When Nova asks why he's doing this, Reinhardt just tells him it's simply because it pisses him off. To Reinhardt, Nova is a useless person who hasn't done anything praiseworthy. He wants to prove to everyone that Nova can't do anything in the king's crisis. He has risked his life to show his usefulness, yet here's Nova who's relying on such sheer luck because his friends are capable. Moreover, Reinhardt has learned that Nova is bound to his skill and can't act freely. Just like the three men he's been with. Just some guys who have troublesome skills. Pointing to the sky, Reinhardt smirks confidently as he tells Nova he can defeat the monsters and save the king in an instant. But he's curious if Nova can save the king faster than him. When will his barrel maker skill solve this, he asks. Meanwhile, at the hot spring island, land is getting updated with the latest happenings. Yes, the island is surrounded by griffins and yes, they can't let the king know about it. Nina tells them that Golem-chan is somehow trying to drive the griffins away right now. And yes, Golem-chan is wrestling the birds as we speak. Suddenly, the king calls Land's attention, saying drinking sake in the spacious hot spring is the best. The king's asking for another cup, to which Land quickly obliges. When the king notices the noisy surrounding, Land makes up an excuse of the forest animals being quite loud. They are in the countryside after all. Their current problem hasn't even had a proper solution yet. Here's another one. A lone griffin has landed on the island, angrily standing behind Nina. Below, Reinhardt is asking Nova for a match. Whoever can drive away the griffins become the other's subordinate. Nova is baffled at the Reinhardt, who's completely calm and of no care right now. When he tells Reinhardt to stop saying stupid things, Fukuto shuts him up and says opposing the castle kicker will only cause problems for them too. Fukuto shares that they're able to stay in the royal palace because they're under his command. He doesn't want to die miserably in a world like this. To Fukuto, Nova only survived with his useless skill because he got lucky. Disappointment etches on Nova's face as he asks Fukuto if he's allowing such tyranny just because Reinhardt has a powerful skill. Fukuto doesn't respond and only stares at Nova. Above ground, Golemchan and Pichon are doing their best at attacking the griffins. When Nina screams so loudly, both of them turn their hands worriedly. The guards are now on full alert, asking Land what's happening. Land immediately tells them he just dropped a plate and he'll go check. Rushing towards Nina, Land finds out that more than one griffin is about to attack Nina when it gets curious about the barrels. Both Land and Nina quietly get back as they see the griffins ransacking the alcohol and drinking them. Now they're going to deal with drunk griffins. The guards head out to where Land is. The king also goes with them and his eyes widen as he sees the griffins drunk on the ground. When the king asks what's happening, his eyes are full of curiosity as he approaches the griffins. The guards tell him to step back, but the king isn't listening. He continues to approach the griffins and even pet them. Not long, he's cuddling the monsters, commenting on how marvelous this is. Meanwhile, Pichan is suggesting they look for the orb which triggered these monsters. They quickly look around the island for it, the griffins hot on their tails. Pichan immediately sees the orb and takes it by the mouth. This causes the griffins to lock on Pichan, who's now flying away from the monsters. Seeing this, Reinhardt won't allow the shining dragon to just ruin all his hard work. Using his leg strength X, Reinhardt lunges to the sky and is about to hit Pichan when Golemchan blocks his attack. The golem then instructs Pichan to escape while she deals with Reinhardt, and so a battle between Golemchan and Reinhardt ensues. However, Golemchan is rendered immobile when she feels a hand touch her back. 10 skill, red light, green light stops the movement of anything he touches. Reinhardt then praises her for being a sturdy golem. She didn't even break with his kick. As Fukuto seizes Nova, 10 has also tied up Golemchan. Scratching the back of his head, Reinhardt realizes he'll lose the griffin repelling competition at this rate. But he also knows Nova won't win either. That summoning orb would have been safe it remained buried, but Pichan has taken it with him. Reinhardt then crouches down and reveals that the orb actually explodes. This has Nova's eyes widen in fear. Apparently, Reinhardt had designed it to break after 30 minutes. After all, if the king is put in real danger, they'd be screwed. Fukuto finally sees Nova's point and lets go of him. However, something unexpected happens with Fukuto. When Nova feels his head being slammed, he tries apologizing to Fukuto, but he's taken aback with the scene he's witnessing. Fukuto is being engulfed in some light-like magic. This is his skill, Turn Misfortune to Fortune, which activates when the user faces disaster but effects are unpredictable. In a matter of seconds, Fukuto's whole body is wrapped around something light and dark at the same time. His glasses shatter to the ground too. Reinhardt, Sho, and Ten watch this scene in complete surprise. When loud noise rings through their ears, Sho lets go of Golemchan to cover his ears. A mistake he should have not done. Now Golemchan turns her head to her captor, now fully mobile, to attack him. Red light, green light is only effective if the user's hand continuously touches the target. As Ten tries to dodge Golemchan, Reinhardt calls him an idiot for letting her escape. Suddenly, the Barrelmaker quest panel appears and it says to make celebratory fireworks echo in the sky. So Nova commands Golemchan to throw the summoning orb into the sky. As soon as Golemchan catches up to Pichan, she quickly tells him to give the orb to her. Pichan then drops it from his mouth and into Golemchan's hand. Then she throws it straight into the sky where the thing explodes. The king watches the sky as it gets decorated with fireworks. His eyes start getting teary-eyed, praising this wonderful scene in front of him. Hot springs, dragons, ancient golems, griffins, and now fireworks. What a truly marvelous time the king is having. When he returns to the ground, the king is puzzled with the looks Reinhardt and the others are sporting. That's when Nina reports how they've been terrible to Nova. Ten immediately defends himself, saying it was Reinhardt who ordered him to do it. Sho gives Fukuto the side-eye, blaming him for doing something unnecessary earlier. Fukuto just comments on their top-notch excuse-making skills. When the king asks Reinhardt what had happened, he realizes he has no choice but to tell him the truth. But before Reinhardt could say anything, Nova pats him on the back and tells the king the griffin and the fireworks were a part of their surprise. Nova tells the king that Reinhardt and the others prepared them for his majesty. However, they had argued because their methods seemed dangerous. Hearing this, Nina realizes Nova isn't telling the truth at all. She does keep quiet though. Nova continues on, saying those worries were unfounded and everything turned out well. After the king understands the situation, he tells everyone to prepare to leave. When the king is finally out of sight, Reinhardt asks Nova what he's trying to do and if he's trying to earn Reinhardt's gratitude. In behalf of Nova, both Golem-chan and Nina corner Reinhardt, holding him by the collar and sarcastically thanks him for what he's done. Nova isn't feeling good at all, so when Golem-chan tells Reinhardt she's going to destroy him, the barrel maker tells her his magical power is at its limit. Rampaging isn't a good idea at all. Smiling, Nova asks for them to stop competing over whose skill is superior. After all, they're both transferees, so they should at least get along in this world. Reinhardt balls his fists as he recalls his childhood. People had praised him for having a useful skill, but they all thought it was only useful as a soldier and is a waste on a child like him. They all wondered how long the young Reinhardt can stay in the royal palace. Reinhardt then screams at Nova, telling him what he had said is something an elementary schooler would say. And he's not a kid anymore since he's already 15. Nova never thought Reinhardt would be younger than him though. Apparently Reinhardt is taller than him. The castle kicker then calls Nova a person with a useless skill. To him he's beyond saving. Ten then mutters this is the reason why Yami had dumped Reinhardt in the first place. Hearing this, Sho asks him to shush. Then Nova approaches Fukuto to thank him for earlier. Fukuto says to pay it no mind. Turns out when he's unlucky, those around him are the ones who benefit. However, when something good happens to the user, disaster befalls those nearby. Fukuto then tells him that if the wind blows, the barrel maker prospers can incorporate other skills and change fate. To him, it's an extremely powerful skill. Fukuto then smiles at Nova, expressing how glad he is that someone like Nova is its user. He also thinks Reinhardt can learn a thing or two from him. With that, Fukuto promises to visit again. After that, the guards announce the king's departure. Before he leaves, the king tells Nova he looks forward to the barrel maker's future accomplishments. When Nova tries to say goodbye to Reinhardt, the castle kicker just gives him a sounding tooks. All the villagers then disperse since they're all exhausted, especially with the unexpected commotion earlier. They also have to clean up, but they need to wait until the drunken griffins leave. On the other hand, Nova believes all 4 of the transferees must have their own struggles at the royal palace. With that, the quest panel informs him that his quest is now cleared. Nova then guesses the loneliness could have been referring to his majesty. Or maybe Reinhardt. Looking up to the sky, Nova smiles as he thinks how nice things are turning out if ever. Meanwhile, the royal entourage are still making their way back to the royal palace when they realize it's pitch black in the forest. This isn't ordinary darkness. Reinhardt's face is now etched with sudden realization as he quickly heads out and calls out for Yami. The cloaked woman immediately scurries away. It was dangerous to run into them in this forest. Her life has been in darkness, making her an inch ahead in everything. Just who is this Yami chick anyways? Yami walks through the big forest, asking herself if this is really the direction going to Laruo village. All she knows is she just needs to follow the cart tracks. Breathing out a sigh of relief, she expresses how she's glad she didn't get caught when Reinhardt and the others were escorting the king. She really did dodge a bullet there. Cheering herself on, Yami is determined to finding clues about the first village chief of Laruo village so she can finally get rid of this cursed skill of hers. Meanwhile, Nova wakes up to his barrel quest panel in front of him. It has a new mission at hand titled, If a Traveler Drinks Medicine, the Forest Becomes Treasure. Under it, Nova's first task is to heal the traveler's fatigue. Nova realizes something's going to happen today. With that, he gets up and starts about his day. Nova then sees Pichon outside and greets her good morning. Pichon tries telling Nova something about visitors as well. Suddenly, Nova's attention is being called by a stranger who's asking if they're in Laruo village. After Nova confirms this is the right place, the adventurer then shares his worry about getting lost since the village is not on the map. Looking up, the adventurer asks if he's seeing the famous Sky Hot Spring right now. Turns out in the royal capital, everyone's been talking about how His Majesty visited the village and tried the famous Sky Hot Spring. These adventurers want to try it too. And so, Nova assists them going to the Sky Hot Spring where they're instructed to first put the bathing fee in the box Land is holding. With this many customers, Land already knows this could work as a rest stop for adventurers. Also, this could be what the first task meant by heal travelers' fatigue on the barrel's quest. Out of nowhere, a frantic Nina appears to bear some terrible news. It seems that the general store downstairs is completely sold out of healing potions. Nina is asking for help in brewing these said potions. She already gathered some medicinal herbs as well. After Nova agrees, they both lay out the ingredients needed for the potions. Nina then shares that the dining hall is already running at full capacity. Since the forest slimes have calmed down, more people can make it here now. Thinking about it, Nina suggests the should build an inn too, which Nova totally agrees with. He's actually thinking about village specialty souvenirs too. The next day, Land plucks out one of the vegetables they're growing and finds a peculiar looking thing. It's way too big for a weed. As he holds it up, the vegetable suddenly opens its mouth and screams at Land's face. This has Land faltering and landing on the ground unconscious. Nova looks at the vegetables in disbelief. These are mandrakes, which are actually rare plants. It seems to be covering the entire field too. The question is, why? Suddenly, one of the mandrakes asks Nova to listen to what they have to say. The mandrake then tells Nova that this is their new homeland, a fertile soil promised for their prosperity. Both Nova and Nina are covering their ears, still in shock with these moving and talking mandrakes. Their voices are insanely loud too. The mandrakes start lunging at the two, telling them that this land belongs to them and humans are their enemies who harvest them. The mandrake then tasks his brethren who share its roots to go and attack their enemies. And so, the duo start running away from the field, making Golem-chan appear and ask Nova if she can burn them all. Nina quickly tells her not to do so because these plants will sell for a fortune. As they're running away, they hear adventurers looking for a flying hot spring in the village. They're also hearing the noise from the mandrakes and are puzzled with what's happening. Just as the duo warn the adventurers to run away, the barrel quest panel pops up and tells Nova of his next task, which is everyone weeds together. Nova then calls the adventurers once again, telling them they're currently holding an all-you-can-harvest mandrake event. He then urges everyone to join and participate in this event enthusiastically. The adventurers stare at Nova with confusion because what do you mean this is an all-you-can-harvest mandrake event? But then, mandrakes are known to greatly restore health and magic power as well as remove all status ailments. The adventurers then see this as a window of opportunity. One shouts this can be materials for panacea potions. One promises to harvest every last one and another is telling everyone else to have earplugs ready. After some time, the adventurers have harvested every last one of the mandrakes. Nova quickly thanks all of them for participating and promises to give them the panacea once it's made from what they've harvested. The adventurers also thank Nova, saying they'll come back once it's ready. The barrel quest panel pops up again with another task to complete. It's now telling Nova to listen to the plant's laments. Nova looks at the mandrakes, which the adventurers have gagged so they won't be able to scream out loud. Even with seeing Land's sleeping state on the ground, which could potentially happen to him as well, Nova still takes the risk and removes his earplugs. As soon as the earplugs are out, the mandrake's screeching voice booms in Nova's ears, which alerts both Golem-chan and Nina in the process. Nova closes his eyes in pain. The mandrake's voice is like nails on a chalkboard, a full orchestra at maximum volume. Covering his ears, the mandrakes begin lamenting about their lives. They're screaming about becoming fodder for humans, being chopped up to death to be made as human medicine which can just be made using only their bulbs. Even with the screeching noise, Nova repeats this information, asking them if it's true that their bulbs are enough for medicine. The mandrakes confirms this, saying they don't need to be subjected to such terrible treatment when there's another way to go about making panacea. Sweating in pain, Nova pleads for the mandrakes to lower their voices. The mandrakes then go silent, looking at one another as they talk quietly. After some time, the mandrakes' voices lower down to explain that they develop their bulbs that store nutrients when they mature. Most of them are harvested before reaching that stage. That's why humans can actually get medicinal ingredients without risking their lives to harvest the mandrakes. Nina suddenly bursts out of nowhere, carrying a harvesting tool with her. Seeing that Nina's about to plow them to death, the mandrakes scream in fear. Nova immediately tells her to wait as he had heard something amazing. He then explains everything the mandrakes have told him. Hearing the details has Nina shouting out of shock, making Nova frazzled once more. He apologizes for his reaction, explaining that the mandrake's voices are still resonating in his head. Nina quickly covers her mouth, apologizing for shouting. After that, the mandrakes stand firm as they look at Nova and Nina. They now know that they can actually harvest them safely without having to uproot the mandrakes. And turns out, they can get the panacea ingredients this way. Nina has never heard of mandrakes growing bulbs, but the mandrakes insists it's true and ushers both Nina and Nova to look at the top of their heads. Upon closer look, there are actually bumps growing on top of its head. After about 5 years, this part gets bigger. Hearing that, Nina interjects how they can't wait that long. 5 years is a bit too long as waiting time. The mandrakes then share that the soil here in Laruo village is incredibly delicious. It would normally take 10 winters to grow this big, but right now they just grew overnight. One of the mandrakes then get one its bulbs. It's small, but it wants Nova to try using one by squeezing out a drop on someone. Looking at Land right now, Nina suggests they try using it on him, and so Nova squeezes out the bulb directly into Land's mouth. Land immediately sits down, screaming how bitter his mouth tastes. Land quickly turns to Nova, confused with what just happened. At the same time, Nova is shocked that it actually worked. Their shock quickly turns to amazement. They don't need to boil the mandrakes anymore. Hearing their comments, the mandrake then pleads for them not to kill them anymore since they're always completely wiped out. With that plead, all the mandrakes simultaneously plead with it. Both Nina and Nova immediately cover their ears while Land gets startled again. As he falls unconscious once more, both Nina and Nova can only ask the mandrakes to quiet down. The mandrakes quickly shut up, especially when Nova promises not to uproot them. But in exchange, they need to promise something to Nova. The mandrakes have to use the field behind the dining hall as their home, and they can't spread beyond that area as well. The people's crops are important too, so they need to share the fields. The mandrake's eyes start twinkling in amazement. Smiling, Nova extends his hand towards the mandrake, telling them how their medicine is absolutely essential for adventurers. The mandrake takes Nova's hand, agreeing to helping each other out from now on. After some time, the general store is now full of panacea potions. The adventurers are even shocked to see how cheap it is. They want 10 or more. Nina happily tells them to take some after their hot spring bath too, and suggests to tell everyone at the guild about this. After that day, Nina reports to Nova that they've already sold out of panacea. It's all thanks to Nova, who negotiated with the mandrakes. Nova explains that Laruo village might become a base for adventurers heading to the deep forest, so they also need the mandrakes' help. Lon seems to be seriously considering it too. Just when Nova thinks everything is working out, one of the mandrakes calls his name and tells him they have a bit of a problem. When they get to the fields, the mandrakes show Nova and Nina the silver amber they found. It's actually pure magical energy that they found everywhere when they extended their roots about 10 meters below. The mandrakes then ask permission if they can dig the silver amber out, since it's actually in their way. Nina's eyes start sparkling with enthusiasm, telling the mandrakes to do so. The mandrakes aren't done yet, telling Nova that insects from the forest are also eating them. Nina is surprised to see that the mandrakes are crawling with phantom beetles. Another mandrake also reports about breaking a tree branch and found some eggs. They're not just eggs too, but firebird eggs. Nina's eyes are now swirling from getting overwhelmed with this crazy information. She had no idea this forest was a treasure trove of rare items. Now she wants to go exploring next time. The barrel question panel then pops up, informing Nova that he has completed his mission. Aside from that, another mandrake tells them that a human suddenly appeared in the forest. The mandrake discovered the human by accident, making it scream in surprise. When Nova asks if that person is okay, the mandrakes lead him to the stranger. There, on the ground, Yami lays in exhaustion from hearing the mandrake's screeching voices. While unconscious, Yami dreams of the nightmare of a life she has had. She had accidentally used her skill, making everything pitch black. Her fellow adventurers all struggle in the darkness with not knowing where everyone else is. They all blamed Yami for ruining the carriage and all their equipment. Angry, they all tell her she's going to pay for this. This is Yami's life. She has a skill she calls useless just because she can't control it. Not wanting this life anymore, Yami searches the books for an answer and somehow stumbled upon a skill change skill. There's actually a transferee with such an amazing skill. This gave Yami the determination to go and find this transferee, as she desperately wants her life to change. Yami jolts awake, screaming how she'll do anything. When she finally opens her eyes and sees the startled Nova, she screams out of fear and turns everything pitch dark. Nina immediately asks Nova what had happened, but the barrel maker is also confused why it suddenly turned dark. Yami quickly apologizes, explaining that her skill makes everything pitch black in front of her. When she panics, it activates uncontrollably. Nova then tells Yami to take a deep breath. The girl does so, taking deep breaths to calm herself. In a matter of seconds, they can all see again. After Yami explains her situation, both Nova and Nina now knows that she's also a transferee and was originally with Reinhardt and the others. Yami fidgets with her fingers, explaining that her skill, Darkness Just Ahead, has such a subtle effect which she can't control at all. Yami had ran away from the castle and tried being an adventurer, but then she ran out of money. That's when she heard about a skill that can change skills. She thought she could get a different skill and start her life all over again. Nova is also shocked to hear that a skill like that exists. But Yami is certain of it, especially that she read it in the transferee records at the royal palace. And the person bearing such skill apparently created a village in this forest. Nina realizes that the girl is talking about the first village chief of Laruo village. However, she's never heard of the first village chief having such skill. Pleading, Yami asks if there are any relics or things with magical energy from that person left in this village. Golem-chan raises her hand as Nova tells Yami that the statue of the first village chief still exists. Golem-chan enthusiastically informs Yami that she doesn't have a skill change function, disappointing the girl. This was Yami's last hope. Now she's out of options. All she could do is sit here in pure disappointment. Nina immediately excuses herself, telling them she'll go make some tea for everyone. Nova awkwardly laughs, citing how he never knew the first village chief had such a skill. Yami is now full-blown sobbing, hurting over the fact that she has to live with this skill forever. Something in Golem-chan suddenly activates as light radiates around her. She then asks Yami if she truly wishes to change her skill. When Yami pointedly expresses her desire to do so, Golem-chan tells her that she must overcome a trial beforehand. Light then blinds both Nova and Yami. Nova immediately asks Yami if she's okay, then turns to Pichon to ask her too. However, Nova quiets down as he takes in Pichon's ginormous figure. Actually, it's not that Pichon had gotten huge. It's that both Nova and Yami have actually shrunken. Making things even worse, Golem-chan is nowhere to be found since she had escaped through the window. Golem-chan has already returned to her own state of mind and tells them that her body is moving on its own. Nova then guesses that the trial has already started, and tells Yami they need to follow Golem-chan now. The question is how? They're tiny humans as of now. It takes just one look at Pichon for Nova to come up with a plan. And so, both miniature Nova and Yami ride on Pichon's back to go and chase after Golem-chan. Meanwhile, Nina come back with piping hot tea to calm everyone down. Imagine her confusion when she finds no one in the room. She has no clue at all where Nova and the others went. At the same time, Yami's amazed that they're flying right now. Suddenly, the Barrel Maker quest pops up in front of Nova with another mission. Follow the golem and the pond will shine, it says. Under it, the first task they need to clear is to follow the golem from the shadow of the tree. With this, Nova quickly tells Pichon to land in the forest. Yami then thinks it would be better to follow from the sky, but Nova trusts the Barrel Maker quest more. From the shadows, Golem-chan informs them to endure the trials ahead and go to the Grey Pond. At least that's what her master says. Yami realizes how complicated this is since the statue seems to contain both the village chief's magic and the golem's consciousness. Still, Yami is determined to go. Even though it's a trial, she already thinks Nova as her friend, so she trusts that he won't do anything weird to her. While Yami appears excited, Nova is already thinking to himself, recalling how the first village chief had defeated the magic golem, so now he's wondering what this will be like. After clearing the first task, the Barrel Quest panel now has a new entry, and tells Nova to take 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. Thinking it's about how to walk through the forest, Nova instructs Pichon to take 3 steps forward, then 2 steps back. Just as Yami confusingly asks Nova what he's trying to do, a huge boulder suddenly lands in front of them. This has Nova realizing this trial is dead serious. No pun intended. After that boulder, a series of falling boulders comes next. The trio try their best to dodge every single one. They're not even sure where these rocks came from, but they're already here and dodging them. When Pichon tries to escape the area, the trees suddenly start moving and binding together so they won't be able to escape. Now they're trapped in here with falling rocks about to kill them. They try maneuvering over the trees, but to no avail. It's just trees and trees, just merged trees with no route for escape. They soon realize this must be a barrier spell, which makes matter worse since they can't see where the first village chief is now. Yami then interjects, saying this is the reason why she said they should have gone by air. Nova can only stutter out an apology. In Yami's mind, she's already regretting trusting Nova. Now she thinks Nova's skill is a useless one just like hers, so they can't rely on it much. Nova, unaware of what Yami thinks of him, is still trying to figure out what the Barrel Maker quest means with their new task. Suddenly, they all hear a noise nearby, making Nova believe that forest monsters might be trapped in here with them. As Yami pleads for Nova not to let them run into those monsters, a snake monster appears behind them. Yami screeches in fear, especially seeing the snake's sharp fangs. Nova then tells her to calm down since it's just a normal-sized snake. Pichon quickly blasts it with the shining dragon's beam, blasting it to death. Breathing a sigh of relief, Nova praises Pichon for a job well done. At least they're safe now. Well, a few seconds of safety that is, because now a large bear is hot on their tails. When it tries to squash Yami with its paw, the girl quickly dodges and escapes. And of course Yami is upset. They're trapped in such a narrow, dark place after all. As they run away, the trio hits a crossroad. With so many forks in the road, Yami is now pressing which way they should go. Nova then says they should go right since its path is narrow, so monsters probably can't follow them. So Pichon quickly makes a run for the right side. And Nova's right. The bear can't get through the narrow road, but as soon as Pichon reaches the end of it, insects are now swarming in front of them. This is bad. Even if they go back the way they came, they'll run into the bear. Just as things are getting worse and worse, the bear comes out from where they came from. Now, the trio is facing both insects and the bear. They need to escape through any passage, Yami says. But Nova thinks it'll be terrible if they can't get out of the maze just because they pass through a random passage. Suddenly, the Barrel Maker quest panel pops up again, telling Nova to order his favorite Sukumen. When Noah frustratingly blurts this out, Yami tells him to stop listening to his useless skill since they're already lost because they followed it earlier. Yami doesn't believe that the Barrel Maker skill will get them to the maze's goal. When Nova tries to defend his skill, saying it must be telling them some kind of hint, Yami tells him that his skill is useless, so he shouldn't be insisting on believing it. Nova then tells her that his Barrel Maker skill has saved his and his friends' lives many times, though it's also caused just as much trouble by making him do things that doesn't make sense. Nova completely trusts his skill, and so Yami has no choice but to believe in Nova. When she asks what Sukumen means, Nova explains that it's always extra vegetables, light oil, and served hot that he orders. At the mention of vegetables, Yami looks up and asks Nova about the passages that have plants attached to them. This could be what extra vegetables means, so Nova urges they try that way. When the bear finally defeats the insects, it now heads towards Pichon, who's already inside that passageway with vegetables. The bear's attention is then redirected towards the vegetables. It's now eating the vegetables, completely forgetting about Pichon. Seeing this as their opportunity, they make a dash for it. Yami soon can't contain her words and asks Nova if he's not going to boast about being the one to save them from peril. Confused, Nova answers her back by asking why would he do so. Yami then shares that the transferees at the royal palace, like Reinhardt, were always bragging about their accomplishments, so she already expects Nova to be as egotistic as them. Awkwardly laughing, Nova tells her he's just focused on solving the barrel maker quest puzzles and that he's never really achieved victory on his own anyway. Hitting another crossroad, Nova thinks about the next part of his Tsukumen order, which is light oil. Seeing the pine resin, Nova instructs Pichon to go where there's less resin. Now for the last part of his order, 7 hot. Believing it's about temperature, Nova tells Pichon to go where the air feels warmer next. While traveling, Yami comments on how the first village chief must be enjoying making things difficult for them right now. Nova can't help but agree, detailing the traps left behind for them. He's still wondering what the first village chief's purpose is, too. Pichon then sees light beaming form nearby. Making a dash for it, they finally arrive outside. The maze is now gone and they're now in the gray pond. Looking around, Nova realizes they've come back pretty close to Laruo village. They soon hear Nina's voice, calling out for Nova. Pichon quickly runs towards her. Nina also turns around and extends her hands towards Pichon. She tells Pichon how she's been looking for them ever since finding the room empty. As Nina brings Pichon towards her chest, both Yami and Nova start falling off the shining dragon. Yami lands herself near some plants while Nova goes splashing into the pond. Shouting at Nina, Yami calls her attention. Now that Nina sees her, she asks why Yami's so small right now. Something Yami can't explain either. For now, she presses Nina to go and rescue Nova, who fell into the pond just now. Nova's not coming back up too, making all of them worried. Light soon radiates from the pond. Slowly, Golemchan emerges from the water, bearing with her 2 versions of Nova. She calmly asks them which of the 2 Nova did they drop. Is it the gold Nova, or is it the shabby one? Nina, Yami, and Pichon are all taken aback with Golemchan's question. When Nina calls her Golemchan, the golem chuckles and tells her right now she's the first village chief. Meanwhile, the real Nova, which is the shabby one, internally realizes this is the golden axe and silver axe fable. At the same time, Nova can't really do anything about it since the barrel maker quest is tasking him to not ask for help if he ever fell into the pond. Yami is now asking Nina which one should they choose. Golemchan also happily repeats her question, asking them which Nova they dropped. The shabby Nova is hoping they'll answer it correctly and won't absolutely say the golden one. However, Nina seems to be blinded by the gold she's seeing. This isn't good at all. When Yami tells her not to choose the golden one and explains it's a famous fable from their world, Nina's eyes sparkle with intent to choose what she thinks is the answer. Assuring Yami it's going to be okay, Nina tells Golemchan she chooses both since she explains she dropped both of them. Light starts emitting through Golemchan, her face now void of the happy expression from earlier. The first village chief's face is now etched with much seriousness. When Nina tells Golemchan she dropped both versions of Nova, the golem stares at her for a few seconds. Golemchan then asks if this is Nina's final answer, to which it is. You can actually see it in Nina's eyes that she's hell-bent on getting that gold Nova. Shabby Nova closes his eyes, sweat trickling his face as he hopes for the best. Even Yami can't dare to look at what Golemchan's going to decide with Nina's answer. The only one looking like she's won the lottery is Nina, who awaits the golem's verdict. Then, Golemchan finally tells her decision. For someone like Nina, Golemchan will happily give her both. This decision, along with Nina's enthusiasm, shocks Yami to the core. Cause what do you mean Nina got that right by choosing both? Yami's reaction is interrupted when 2 clear bubbles float from below her. Just then, the real Nova finally reveals himself under the shabby one. Nina quickly crouches down to hug Nova. Well, the gold Nova to be specific. She's very happy to see that she gets to keep a real gold bar, and the real Nova just sits there speechless. And so, Golemchan tells Yami that the trial is now cleared. She was quite entertained with the trio's enthusiasm and determination to get the trial done. After that, Golemchan then asks Yami if she wants to do the skill change gacha now. It's a gacha since there's no guarantee Yami will pull a better skill than the one she has now. Besides that, Golemchan thinks the residue of her magical power in this statue will vanish after this skill change, meaning there won't be a second chance after. Golemchan doesn't want Yami to have any regrets. Yami looks like she's hesitating. This is a big change after all. Golemchan, as the first village chief, then shares about her past. Back when she was summoned to this country, transferees' skills were things to be used in wars against demons or other nations. Her role was to change useless skill into usable military force. Even now, Golem-chan still doesn't know if those people actually became happy after the skill change. And now, the question lies in Yami. What will she choose to do? Forlorn, Yami gazes down as she balls her fists. Because of her skill, she couldn't find a place where she belonged. Nowhere at all, she tells Golem-chan. Her skill assessment at the palace was the lowest rank, and Yami couldn't be accepted as an adventurer either. In a world she knew nothing about, Yami just didn't know what to do. Yami doesn't care about being strong, she just doesn't want the people around her to hate her. And yet here she is, about to make a decision of a lifetime. Looking at Nova, Yami finally tells them she's decided not to change her skill at all. Of course, this shocks Nova while Golem-chan remains silent as she continues to listen to Yami. To her, meeting Nova in Laruo village really surprised her. Yami realized that having a useless skill has nothing to do with making a place for oneself. It's true that her skill caused her a lot of trouble, but maybe Yami was just assuming that a useless skill meant she couldn't do anything useful. Taking a step forward towards Nova, Yami apologizes because she had misjudged the barrel maker. Yami really thought he ran away to the countryside because he was a useless person. Hearing this, Nina chimes in and happily defends Nova by saying Nova is an important companion of Laruo village, regardless of what his skill is. Nina says this while holding the gold bar too, making it a bit unconvincing to believe. A small smile appears on Yami's face, thanking Nova for putting up with her sudden selfishness. Scratching the back of his head, Nova gives her a sheepish smile and tells her not to worry about it. Golem-chan finally smiles too. She's very glad that Laruo village has grown into such a wonderful place. When she was a person back then, Golem-chan reveals she also got sick of work and ran away from the palace with her companions. But the days they spent building a base in this forest and the adventuring they did were so much fun. The first village chief was actually the one who made that maze back then too. When Nova asks if that base had become Laruo village, Golem-chan happily confirms it. Sometimes they'd even entertain adventurers who wandered in the village. She then tells them how it would make her, the first village chief, very happy if they continue to cherish Laruo village from now on. Suddenly, light emits around the first village chief's body, a sign that looks like her magical power is reaching its limit. It's been a long time since someone's request wasn't just filled with greed, so Yami really did make her happy. Golem-chan then raises her hands to bid everyone goodbye, telling them she's rooting for everyone's happiness. The transfiguration soon ends, and when she opens her eyes again, Golem-chan is back to her normal self. She even congratulates her master for doing a good job on the trial. After Nova comments on Golem-chan being back to normal, they all hear a loud noise from Nina. She's crying her heart out because the golden Nova statue is now gone, and in her hands is a big tree trunk. Nina really thought she could make a fortune off of golden Nova. Hearing this, Nova can't help but wonder what Nina was planning on doing exactly. Avoiding Nova's question, Nina tearfully asks Golem-chan to change Nova back to gold again, something Golem-chan happily says no to. After that, Nova and Yami are both outside. Nova sadly asks the girl if she's really leaving so soon and encourages her to at least stay for the hot springs. However, Yami tells him she can't let Nova take care of her when she doesn't have a cent to her name. When Nova asks her again fee, she's really okay with not changing her skill. Yami confidently smiles. After seeing Nova look like he was having so much fun, Yami would find it embarrassing to keep blaming her skill for everything that goes wrong. Putting on her cloak, Yami tells him she'll try to think of a way to make it work in her own way. She also tells Nova to look forward to it when she comes back to Laruo village in the future. And so, Nova bids Yami's retreating figure goodbye. What had transpired actually left Nova thinking as well, especially the part of finding a place to belong. When Nova had transferred to this world, everyone accepted him regardless of his skill. Well, at first he was actually cast aside because of his useless skill, but Silas and the others, including Nina and everyone else in Laruo village, had accepted him for who he is. Opening the Barrel Maker quest panel, Nova stares at it as he recalls Golem-chan's smiling face. If he can keep cherishing this place. His thoughts are suddenly interrupted when Nina comes from behind, commenting on how being a transferee looks tough, especially between what happened with Reinhardt days prior and the other day with Yami. Nina then shares how she's actually always thought she's jealous of transferees because they have rare skills. She still thinks of it until now. But today with Yami made her realize that people only value transferees for their skills and nothing more. She then wishes they could just live as freely as the people of this world do. Hearing this, Nova warmly thanks her for her encouraging words. But Nina somehow doesn't understand the warmth she had given Nova through those words. Nina then remembers something they can actually do. She asks Nova if they can go harvest that silver amber the mandrakes found the other day. Since the golden Nova statue is now gone, might as well look for other stuff they can make moolah. Nina even requests if Nova can give them a barrel maker quest where they can get a lot of real Nova gold statues. Nova gives her an awkward laugh. To think he was actually going to say something nice too. Out of nowhere, Nova's name is being called by one of the mandrakes. It's telling them that something terrible has happened and it needs him to go to the forest. When they reach there, the mandrakes are holding on to one of the trees. Both Nova and Nina are in disbelief at what they're seeing right now. The trees are uprooted and looks like they were forcibly done so. Who would do such a terrible thing?